Invocation.
May we pray. Gracious God, our Father, we thank you for this opportunity. We thank you for this day. Truly, we all come from somewhere. We did not get here in and of ourselves. And we ask you with the amalgam of skills, gifts, and talents that we have that you've given to us, let us use them wisely and govern accordingly to your word and use wisdom in how we do it. We thank you, Lord, that in every ordinance, every resolution, everything that is done, that you will get glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. That was Pastor Darius Moore from the China Grove Missionary First Baptist Church. That's in Linwood Park, correct?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, if you please call the roll.
Yes, Mayor J. Max Davis,
Here.
Councilmember Rebecca Williams,
Present.
Councilmember Bates Madison,
Here.
Councilmember Joe Gebbia.
Present.
Okay, we have a quorum.
All right. If you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Opening remarks. You have some?
Yeah, I'd just like to invite the board members of the Brookhaven Police Golf Tournament up to the front to have a special recognition. This was a first annual Brookhaven Police Golf Tournament put on by historic Brookhaven. Stan Sands being the chair, and Capital City was very gracious to host us. They raised over $75,000 for the Brookhaven Police Scholarship Fund, and Chief Yandur can do the honors.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council, and everyone here. I really appreciate, the whole police department appreciates all the efforts. This all started back in October, November. I think I got a visit from Stan. He said he was bored and looking for something to do, and he says, I want to start up a foundation and a golf. He appreciated the work that our officers have been doing, and he said, wanted to start up a foundation, a scholarship fund for the police department, officers, kids, and officers. And he said he expected to raise $25,000 to $35,000, I think, at that time. And we had the golf outing April 21st after one rain delay, and it amazed me. It was over $75,000. So we really appreciate it. But in order to show our appreciation, we like to not only thank the Historic Neighborhood Association in Brookhaven, but also Capital City. We have Captain Alec Frazier here also. So part of our appreciation there, and we have a plaque for that too. But we have a plaque, I guess you guys will have to pass it around, but we also have certificates. But basically it says, the Historic Brookhaven Neighborhood Association, Jed Beardsley, Larry Bradner, Jay Gibson, Edward Matthews, Stuart Oglesby, Liz Thorington, Mark Shaw, and Stan Sands. Brookhaven Scholarship Golf Tournament, April 21st, 2014, in recognition and appreciation of your dedication and valued contributions to the Brookhaven Police Scholarship Fund. We really appreciate it.
It was our pleasure.
And to go along with that, we have certificates, and I only read one, but they're all the same, but it says, this is awarded to Stan Sands. Certificate of Appreciation and Recognition and Appreciation of your efforts in the formation of the Brookhaven Police Department Scholarship Fund. It was through your efforts that a scholarship fund was formulated to assist our police officers in providing scholarship assistance and promoting continued education for their children. This dedication and effort raised over $75,000 during this inaugural golf outing held April 21st at the Capital City Club. Your efforts and perseverance in recognizing our officers and their families completely enhances our partnership within our community that we will continually strive for as our mission. So
Well, we look forward to the second phase, and that is giving it away.
we look forward to that too.
Thank you. Would y'all come up for a picture, please?
Okay, sure.
Well, hold on, we got one more. To the captain and I believe president of the Capital City Club. Captain, this is hopefully probably have this displayed in the clubhouse somewhere, but this is the Capital City Club Brookhaven Police Scholarship Fund Golf Tournament. April 21st, 2014, in recognition and appreciation of your dedication and valued contributions to the Brookhaven Police Scholarship Fund. Captain also does leadership training, and we're looking forward to working with him and the police department, too, so.
We're proud to be a part of Brookhaven. Thank you.
Thank you. Edward, there's little tokens of our appreciation there too, our challenge coins. Larry,
I'll give that to him.
okay. Jay's here, Stuart.
Should we apply the ethics
isn't here.
policy to the city attorneys whose team won the tournament? Is there some
Can't
some
accept
kind of
anything.
conflict or something? I don't know what it is.
No, Mayor, I have this beautiful silver tray, and I will not display it in City Hall.
Well, maybe he could make up, because I heard one of the councilmen say he found parts of that golf course that he never knew existed.
That would be Councilman Madison.
Nice call, shortcut.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, hey, our pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you.
Mayor, thank you.
Yeah, come on in. Come on in.
Great job.
All right. Chief and Stan. All right. All right. Let's turn around that way, please.
Okay, we'll hold the plaque out.
Guys stand in front. We're going to go side.
Front. All right, we got it?
Smile. All right, thanks.
Thank
Thanks,
you
guys.
again.
Thank you.
Of course it did. You saw it too. But you need to get yours up.
That was great. That's $75,000, and that's a great, I mean, it was a fine tournament. The reception was great, so thank you all again. Okay, Bates has got to leave for a second. He's got to go pick up somebody who's disabled to come to the meeting, so he'll be back in just a minute. Agenda announcements. Do we have some agenda announcements, Marie?
Go ahead and record that then. All right, yes, we do.
The deferrals.
A couple of deferrals. Well, actually, we're going to move the Capital City announcements up to opening remarks, so you've already done that because we had that later in the agenda, so we'll remove that from the agenda. Also, under new business, the city manager's contract will be deferred. I would ask that you defer under new business, item number 6, consideration of approval to amend the sign ordinance text amendment banner signs. We'll come back with that at a later date.
And you asked for number 5 also, I think.
And number 5, yes, thank you, and that is the average front yard setbacks. We're going to put that, the maps that we shared with you during the work session on our website. We're also going to share that with our Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee. They have a visioning meeting later this week, so we'll make sure that that's available to them as well. So item 5 and 6 under new business, and item 1, the new number 1 under new business. 6 and 7, isn't
It's 6 and 7.
6 and 7, which is, no, it should be, yeah, it should be 6 and 7.
Okay, I have 5
Yeah,
and 6.
yeah. Well, that's because we moved the one.
Okay. Okay, all right, thank you. All right, 6 and 7, thank you.
Need a motion for that.
Motion to defer.
All those as stated by.
That's right.
City manager.
I would move that we defer, I'll identify them by ordinance number in the current.
Just as stated by the.
Just say as far as the new business, item number 1, item number 6, and item number 7,
Okay, under new business, item number 6 and item number 7 as stated.
and number 1.
And number 1, I move that we defer.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor of deferring the items as stated, signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
And Mayor, if I may make one comment about the city manager's contract, this is, the deferral is not by virtue of the fact that there's some disagreement over business terms or the like. It's just a matter of the finalization of the language of the agreement. So
Okay.
I did want to make that note
Okay.
for the record.
All right, thank you. All right, Any more agenda announcements?
No.
Public comment?
Mr. Mayor, I have one card for matters on the agenda.
Okay.
Mr. Jim Dupree.
Mr. Dupree?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. My comment goes to item number 6, which is consideration and approval of Murphy Candler Park land use development. I don't believe the terms of this agreement or whatever it was or is have been made public, and I especially think in view of the ongoing Parks and Recreation Master Plan, that this should either be deferred until that plan has been drafted and approved, or at least give the public an opportunity to comment on this land use agreement. I think it has the opportunity to set a precedent in all of the parks in this regard, and I think that this should be reviewed by the public, and the public be given an opportunity to comment on it as opposed to just a consent agenda item.
Thank you. Next? Did you just get another one?
Not an item on the agenda.
Okay, all right. Consent agenda.
Okay, consent agenda. We have 7 items on the consent agenda. The first 4 are meeting minutes. The 5th is the Brookhaven financial policy. The next one is the Murphy Candler Park land use agreement, and, there's just 6 of them. So 6 items on the consent agenda for your approval.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Well, let's take it in pieces here. I'll move that we approve the consent agenda items 1 through 5.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor of approving consent agenda items 1 through 5, signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, that's 1 through 5 is approved. Number 6, this is the Murphy Candler land use agreement with the leagues. The reason this is on the consent agenda is because the leagues are in operation, and they've been operating without an agreement for several months now. DeKalb County had a similar agreement with the leagues. This agreement has been worked on feverishly for the past months, and I can tell you that the differences in this agreement is it makes it more, protects the city a little bit more, protects the leagues a little bit more, and in addition, we have added a usage fee, which didn't exist before, for the leagues. So I know the terms of that are that they would be paying 3 leagues $10,000 per year for usage of the fields as they've been doing. There's a schedule of a calendar of when those fields will be used and when there'll be times for people to use the fields outside the purview of the league. But they're serving 2,000 kids down there with football, baseball, softball, cheerleading, 2,300 kids roughly. It's very active. They need a land use agreement because they're a nonprofit volunteer organization. We'll definitely post this agreement for the public to see. It's a yearly agreement for the term of 15 years, has to be approved every year. So once the comp plan comes out this fall, the agreement will be up for renewal again in January. Is that right? In January?
Right.
Yeah, in January. So any tweaks to that can be done at that time. But this is sort of a, because we've been held up by DeKalb County with the purchase of the parks, we've had to hold up on this. And because now DeKalb has approved the purchase agreement that we've worked out. This is incumbent. We have to get this done. So it's not an instance of not wanting the steering committees or the public to know about the land use agreement. It's something that continues on what is happening, but in addition, protects the city in more ways than it did under the previous county arrangement. And so these leagues desperately need this agreement for all kinds of reasons, because if we balk on getting a land use agreement with these leagues, it's, they don't have certainty that they can continue on. They're completely volunteer. They've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in the infrastructure of the athletic field at the side of the park, And it's very important that we get this facility agreement done tonight. We've worked in hand with them. They've been great to work with, and they're doing a wonderful service. All three of my children are down there, and there's nothing in this agreement that is going to infringe upon anybody's right to do anything that they want to do at the parks. Matter of fact, it expands rights for people to use the fields when they're not in use by the league. So I feel very comfortable and I'm very supportive of approving this facility land use agreement tonight for football, girls softball, cheerleading, and baseball tonight. And we'll definitely, this agreement we'll post it on the website tonight as well.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I'd like to add just a few things that are part of this agreement and also where the city has benefited absent an agreement. We have already entered into a joint venture with the Youth Sports Association in that they paid more than 50% for the improvements of building a bathroom facility. Not only the cost of the materials, but also the contractor's work. They provided that. The agreement also includes that they will maintain the fields, so that saves us quite a bit of money as a city that we won't have to go out there and maintain them. They've agreed to maintain them to our standards, so that we have a standardization throughout all of our parks. They are working with us on, programming activities. We're talking about a Miracle League. I mean, there's a number of things that will be beneficial to the city. Also, any improvement that they build that is affixed to the land becomes the city's. So they're improving the value of the park as well.
Yeah, they just, I think it was $75,000 in addition to the $25,000 they contributed to the bathroom just this year. The bathroom looks great, by the way. They just built a new pavilion down at the lower, in the floodplain portion of the park where the baseball fields are, a new batting, pitching, and instructional pavilion. Raised all the money on their own, got it built, and it's state-of-the-art. The whole area is vastly improved from what it was just even 5 years ago. And Maria is right. This agreement makes it so that the leagues are responsible for maintaining the athletic fields to our standards. Everything inside a fence that you see down there on the athletic side, the leagues are responsible for. They're going to pay for. We don't have to pay for it. So that's money that goes to other parks and other areas and improvements at Murphy Candler Park and at the lakeside and everything. That's money they're saving the city. So we're very excited about the relationship. We want to continue and foster the volunteerism that has been going on down there since I was a child and before. And we don't want to do anything to upset that dynamic because it benefits our city and the children of our city. And we look forward to expanding the participation of children in Brookhaven at Murphy Candler Park. That's something that's been a goal of mine that we're going to work on as well. And they're in agreement with that policy as well. Any other, yes, questions? Any questions?
I was just hoping Marie could give us maybe a little bit more of just an overview of what's included in these land use agreements. I mean,
Yes.
she did to some degree.
Insurance, there's an insurance.
Okay. I'll tag team it with the city attorney where I might miss something. First and foremost, one of the improvements to this agreement from the past is that now we have what we're calling an umbrella agreement with the entire association, but then we break it down into separate agreements for youth football and cheerleading as one entity, softball as another entity, and then baseball. So now we have more specificity as to what the terms are as far as what their play time, their tournament time, their practice times are, and what that enables us to do, which was completely different than when it was under the DeKalb operations, in that when we have days that are identified that the leagues are not using them, our own recreation director can program those fields for other activities. So the goal here is that we will have that park in constant use, whether it's through the league association or through the city of Brookhaven. One of the things, too, that we wanted to get a handle on, and we worked very closely with the league on this, and that was to identify the participants and where they were coming from, not by name and not by specific address, but we wanted to know the streets of where the registrants lived. So we could track, the percentage of Brookhaven residents using the parks and those that were non-residents using the parks. They've also agreed to allow for early registration for residents of the city. They are, of course, willing to share the census. In fact, they've even offered, as of late today, that they would even break up the registrants by district if council members wanted to know specifically how many residents per district were coming out of your specific areas. The insurance coverage, I mean, they are covering all of the contents of the buildings that they have built on the property, the storage building for all of their equipment and tools. They have quite a bit of tools for maintaining those fields. We won't carry the insurance on that. They're carrying that coverage liability, so there's a cost savings there to us as well. Anything else that you
Yeah,
want
just,
to add?
and a couple other comments is that in the past, the scheduling of the fields was probably not a great democratic process, where now there is a schedule for each of the leagues as far as the fields and the times and dates that they can use those, such that the city is also not precluded from using the fields, where in the past there was that issue with the county. And the other thing relates to the fact that all workers will be required to register, and we will run background checks on all of the workers and all the volunteers that are going to be with the children to make sure that there's, and concession stand operators to make sure that there's no criminal background issues.
And one other thing, too, because of the the type of programs that are provided, they have what they call the primary season, and then they have the secondary season. So there's fall ball, fall baseball. We will also get the list of registrants there as well. So we'll be getting those at the beginning of each year. So that way we'll have a better understanding of the usage and where that's coming from, and ultimately to perhaps talk to our neighboring cities to see if they'd like to partner with us, where we may be offering recreational opportunities to their citizens. So it gives us a great insight that was never available before. So I'm very pleased with this agreement.
That's an issue. A lot of this Murphy Candler Park has traditionally been sort of a regional park for North DeKalb and a little bit of Sandy Springs and a little bit of Chamblee. And so it's good that I know some of the people in the associations have started to petition their city council in Dunwoody, because many Dunwoody residents use the park, and they always have, about them possibly chipping into some funding for the maintenance of the park or for capital improvements. And so I've spoken to the mayor of Dunwoody about that. He wasn't averse to it, and they're going to start hearing soon, I think, from a lot of Murphy Candler families who live in Dunwoody about their desire that the Dunwoody City Council and mayor do something to kind of pull their own weight a little bit. All right?
I can remember all these conversations that we've had about parks in Brookhaven have been long and arduous, and I think we're going to have more information from you on it tonight. But I do recall the early conversations when we were thinking about taking over the maintenance of the parks. We didn't even have a list of who was the participants, and the uncertainty that created, and how are we going to handle it, make sure people could be protected. I think that this step right here adds predictability to it. We're under the gun for a short period of time. This is not cast in stone. Every year the review is there. So there should be ample time for residential input. I personally think this is a good move.
Yeah, this is the Murphy Candler associations, all the leagues, football, baseball, softball, cheerleading, are a model for how I would like to see things done in Brookhaven from this point forward when it comes to public-private partnerships. And when we look at starting a basketball league, I'll look to this agreement and you'll look to this agreement to kind of be the model to work on. So we appreciate, I know I see Pat here from ACYA, the football section. I appreciate the work that y'all do, and we appreciate the working with us to get this agreement done, and we appreciate the hundreds and thousands of hours of volunteers' work that goes into the park every year. And the fields and the facilities look as good as they do because they've had no support from the county prior to this, and help us on the way, but they look the way they do because of the work that your associations do, and I appreciate that. All right?
Make a motion?
Yeah, the motion's been.
No, it's
You gotta
separated.
make one for number 6. Go ahead.
I make a motion that on consent agenda, we approve item number six, consideration and approval of the Murphy Candler Park Land Use Agreement.
Second.
Seconded.
Any discussion? All in favor of item number 6, signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Thank you very much. And this, again, will be posted. And Mr. Dupree, if you'd like to look at my copy, you can have it right now if you'd like it. All right, thank you. All right. Announcements.
Yes, I have one announcement to remind the public that this Thursday evening from 6 to 8 o'clock at St. Martin's, we'll have a visioning session for our comprehensive plan. Our steering committee will be there, and we invite the public to attend.
All right. Oh, food trucks tomorrow.
Yes, and they start food trucks
Food trucks
tomorrow.
start tomorrow at Blackburn Park at 5:30, is that right?
5:30.
Can I make one?
5:30.
5 to 8, 5 to 9? Okay.
5 to 9, food trucks, Blackburn, be there. I wanted to say a special thank you. I didn't have a chance to say this earlier. If you noticed, welcome to our new City Hall, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
This is our first meeting in our new City Council chambers. And if you obviously had to come in through the front. If you notice, there's a couple of planters out in front, and they've got some beautiful flowers and some Japanese maples in them. And I'm very proud of Ronnie Mayer for personally planting and donating our landscaping in the front to make us a more beautiful City Hall. Thank you so much, Ronnie. You may have also noticed that we have 3 cherry trees that we planted on Arbor Day that we hope to be seeing blooms on next spring.
Yes, thank you, and thank you, Ronnie, for that. You're a tree man. We love you for it. I'd like to thank Brad Middlebrooks for all the work that he did getting this room ready. And this has been quite an effort. Most of the building that if you took the tour this afternoon, some of you did and some of you didn't, but most of the building was just carpet and paint, a little bit of drywall. This building, this section, we want to make sure the public was comfortable, that they could see. I know this pole in the middle, I know that's not great for everybody, but this is the nature of the building. We're very happy with the sound system. Everybody can hear okay? Is that right? All right. Could be a little loud. Okay, how about that? All right. There we go. Just excited about the fact that our staff, through the move, thank you, Daniel, thank you, Dana, Chief, Marie, everybody, Susan, everybody that went through this move. It was difficult. Y'all performed well under a lot of pressure and a lot of upheaval. So for the past month and a half, I know it's been very, very hard to get your work done with hammering, and we were moving into each floor as it was getting completed. So thank you all staff for getting this done, and thank you for the great turnout tonight. Also like to say thank you. We have someone leaving us tomorrow. That's right. That's Dana from our communications. She's been with us for almost a year, and she's done a great job. She has gotten Brookhaven's message out in the media very well, and we want to say thank you for your service, and we look forward to seeing what your career holds in the future. She's going back to her public relations field and going to a company that specializes in public relations. And what's the name of your company? Fleischman Hiller? All right, so if you need some public relations work, maybe the city could use you at some point. All right?
I think we should give her.
Yes, thank you. Stand up, guys.
I'm going to make a quick comment, too, that if you did take the tour of City Hall, or even if you didn't, just a point of interest, most of the furniture that we have in the building has been donated by some of our corporate citizens, including our landlord, for starters, Delta Life, Cox Communications, and even the chairs you're sitting on came from Auto Trader. So people have been very generous with their excess office furniture, and we've been glad to take them and save our taxpayers a few dollars.
Hopefully those chairs are a little bit more comfortable than the ones in the other place, right? And
Right.
since we're giving tidbits on this, you mentioned it, but I really want to make sure the point gets across. When we first moved in here, or if you had the tour, we've made very, very good use of every floor.
Oh, yeah.
Well, imagine that first floor had to house everybody when we first moved in here, because the second floor and the third floor were not done. And then they moved into the second floor when it finished, and that was fine, the crowding got less. Then finally, we just moved into the third floor. This place was just finished last week, wasn't it?
This week.
Yesterday.
Yesterday?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
It's
it's-
great to be here.
And just some features of the building, we have, on the first floor, there is a business incubator. And give us 1 minute on how that's going to work and what's going to go on with that.
Well, other than to say, stay tuned for more details.
Right.
It is going to be a business incubator, and we will have a specific field identified as to what the incubation is that we're going to try and promote. And this is new to municipal government. You see this a lot in the private industry, so we're very excited about being a pioneer. And in a couple of weeks, I'll have more details for you.
There's also a community conference room downstairs,
Correct.
right behind the business incubator for, probably hold 30, 40 people. So for any community groups or civic groups that want to have space to have a meeting, they can do it at night, too?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a conference room available, perfect for any homeowners association or any other type of group that wants to get started or wants to have a meeting and needs a place. That's on the first floor as well. And that first floor space is at $750 a square foot, by the way. We got a great deal. So thank you to Marie for negotiating this lease where our average is $12.50 a square foot for this building on Peachtree Road, which is half the market price, which was thanks to Marie Garrett getting that done because that's, we got a 5-year lease and we're excited to be here and excited to have a place. And all, like I said, like Rebecca said, most of the furniture was donated. We saved a little money because my office, per my campaign promise, does not have a door. So there's no door on my office. So come on in for Mondays with the mayor at the new city hall. All right?
And I just want to add, while we're talking about innovation, earlier today at 3 o'clock, we announced a very innovative effort for the city of Brookhaven. It's innovative for the entire state of Georgia. We announced an education effort that we had allocated money in our 2013 budget to accomplish 3 education goals. One is to conduct a study to look at a feasibility of a city school system. 2 is to address issues at Cross Keys High School and look at ways that we can partner with DeKalb County and work together to improve the operations at Cross Keys and possibly facilities. And 3, submit a petition for an independent charter school that will be submitted both to the DeKalb County School Board and to the State Charter Review Board, which will be submitted actually on the 15th of this month, so this Thursday. That will put in motion a review by the county and the state, and we're very hopeful that we can have a partnership with DeKalb County in the creation of an independent charter school that will serve the citizens of Brookhaven and DeKalb County and potentially the state. But it's a high-tech, 21st century learning school, or initially be K through 5, but it is a opportunity for our citizens in Brookhaven and DeKalb County to look at school choice. And hopefully this initiative will be a great partnership with DeKalb County's new school board and lead to the improvement of schools not only in Brookhaven but throughout the entire state, because this is a model which we understand has never been done in the state of Georgia, where a city has led an effort to create an independent charter school.
Can you explain what an independent charter school is briefly?
Yeah, an independent charter school is a public school. You submit a charter petition. A charter just means a contract. A petition to both the DeKalb County School Board. They have the option to either approve it or deny it. If they deny it, it's an appeal to the State Charter Review Board. But basically, it is a public school that's paid for by your public taxpayer dollars.
Not city taxpayer dollars, but your public
Yeah.
education dollars that you pay for the
There will be
state.
there's absolutely no further obligation from the city of Brookhaven for this school initiative for any of these issues that we've discussed. But it's another option. So if you choose not to go to your districted elementary school, you can choose to apply to an independent charter school. And this Brookhaven Innovation Academy would be simply another option for people in Brookhaven, and we believe that that provides the city of Brookhaven and its taxpayers real economic development opportunity, because a good local school system creates jobs and economic value. So we look forward to that application process. If everything gets approved, it will actually be open as a new school in August of 2015.
Right, and it'd be 420 students at the actual physical campus, and there are several places in Brookhaven where they're looking at partnering with DeKalb County possibly for some facility, but that they don't seem to think that the facility would be much of an issue. They can find one. 420 students on campus, 420 students virtual, where that means that students from home across the state or in other schools can go online and be a student at the academy, which means that there'll be a lottery for those 420 students, limited to Brookhaven residents first, and then it would be, the next in line would be DeKalb County residents, then it would be residents of the state of Georgia. So the priority is given to the residents, the people that live inside Brookhaven, the children that live inside Brookhaven, which is a kind of an interesting point, I think.
That's really.
And initially
Right.
starts off what, K through 6? K through 6, and then every year after that,
They would add a grade.
another grade is added. So this is a defining moment for the city of Brookhaven, and probably within the state of Georgia.
So if you're interested in learning more about this, and we certainly want the public to participate, you go to brookhaven.educate.
No.
Education.
Brookhaven.education.
I did it wrong again. Brookhaven.education.
There's
So
no
.com after.
There's no slash, there's nothing, there's no net.
You can sign up. I believe there may be frequently asked questions that's being posted to that website, but you can sign up for updates to keep informed about this effort.
And thank you to Councilman Madison for leading on this issue. It's a great, taking a lot of your time. I know it has, but it's something you're passionate about, and very excited about what this can offer the city of Brookhaven for economic development reasons.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you, Bates. Anything else? All right. Reports and presentations?
Yes, item number 1 is Champion for Safe Children Street Grace organization. This is Councilman Gebbia's initiative, and he does have a guest speaker this evening.
I'd like to introduce to everybody Mr. Greg Chevalier. Greg, you want to come up for a second? Greg was appointed by the Governor's Commission from the Office of Children and Families to lead up a project that has to deal with the commercial exploitation of children. And the city of Brookhaven is working in concert with this organization to become the first certified city in the state of Georgia designated as a champion for safe children. And just as we're trying to be a model within the state of Georgia and how we're handling the education, we're going to continue the progressiveness of how we approach programs. And this will be hopefully the seed planted that will spread out through the state. Greg, I'm going to leave it to you to do the description, please.
Certainly. Again, I'll apologize. The laryngitis is carried forward from the 4 o'clock session. But Mayor and City Council, I appreciate your time and energy on this particular effort. I am here on behalf of the Governor's Office for Children and Families, and I am part of a statewide task force focused on the issue that we term CSEC, or commercial sexual exploitation of children. In its simplest form, we focus on the illegal business of adults that purchase and sell children for sex, and that's what this issue is all about. Before I go into the initiative that we are proposing at the city of Brookhaven, I just want to point out a couple of recent local Atlanta headlines, news headlines. May 9th, 2014, a 58-year-old chief executive officer of the southern region of a national healthcare company was arrested for internet solicitation of the purchase of a child for sex, a 14-year-old girl. On April 22nd, 2014, in Lawrenceville, Georgia, a woman was arrested for keeping 5 young females in an apartment captured as sex slaves, selling those children for sex. On that exact same day in Norcross, in a separate isolated incident, an individual was arrested for soliciting the sale of 2 minor females for sex at a hotel. In March of 2014, a Douglas County elementary school principal was arrested along with 14 other adults for the solicitation of the purchase of children for sex. Less than 24 hours ago, a Marietta father was arrested for the solicitation for the sale of illicit photos of a 1-year-old female that is proposed to be his daughter. The reason that I bring up these headlines is this is the demographic of the power of this issue in our state. And that is backed by research that we have done in a scientific research study where we focused on the issue of sexual exploitation of children specific to the state of Georgia. And what we needed to do was bring the facts on this particular issue forward. This is not an international issue. This is not an issue about the airport. This is not about international businessmen or businessmen outside of our state soliciting children for sex. This particular scientific research study states that every month in the state of Georgia, 7,200 men purchase a child for sex. And in a 24-hour period in our state, our children, Georgia children, are purchased for sex to the tune of 100 to 300 children every 24 hours. The purpose of our task force is we have built an education curriculum and we have adopted a designation from the Governor's Office of Children and Families that we designate an entity, Champion for Safe Children. We have partnered with an organization called Street Race. We've worked diligently with Councilman Gibbia to develop an education program and a set of criteria that the city would adopt in order to become designated Champion for Safe Children. There are two parts to the initiative. The first part is that the city accepts the criteria. And that criteria simply states that all city staff, personnel, and city employees will participate in the education program, and that the city will work with the police, emergency response personnel, and first responders to educate them on this issue of commercial sexual exploitation of children. And then the second part of the commitment on behalf of the city is that the city accepts a pledge that they live by. That pledge has three parts. The first part is that the city walks in integrity, which basically states that the city will not support businesses or activities that perpetuate domestic minor sex trafficking. The second part is that the city will exhibit courage. By doing that, they will raise awareness and they will speak out against domestic minor sex trafficking. And the third part is that the city will leave a legacy. By that, we mean that they will foster and maintain an environment that protects children from the exploitation of sexual predators and educates children and adults on the severity of this particular issue as it exists within the state of Georgia. So those are the two parts to the program. One part is the city acceptance of the criteria. The second is the pledge. I have penned a letter signed by me on the Governor's Office for Children and Families letterhead to Councilman Gibbia that offers the city of Brookhaven the opportunity to become the first in the state to accept the criteria and accept the pledge and be designated a Champion for Safe Children. That will be published on the Governor's Office for Children and Families website, and we will also provide the city of Brookhaven with supporting material that they can publish with the designation of Champion for Safe Children.
Excellent. Do you have any questions?
Went through the work session. It's a horrifying issue that I know that our police force has dealt with in some areas of the city already, and it's shocking to know how much of it goes on that you don't even realize. And it's when you have children of your own, it becomes a heightened issue for you when you see and hear about what happens to other children. Just the fact that you had this father with a 1-year-old girl just recently, there's not a hot enough place in hell for people like that, in my opinion.
Yeah, and our objective with the education is that we raise the awareness such that we can begin to suppress that type of demand. And when you think about the demand and that volume, over 7,200 adults, like adults in this room, that have a desire to purchase children for sex, we have to take a statewide initiative and stance on this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
Thank you very
work.
much for what you do, helping to protect, as I've said before, our most valuable resource, which is our children. And most of these children are the byproduct of sexual abuse, and they're very, very vulnerable. And we need to be making people more aware of how to recognize it and to provide assistance.
Yeah, and Joe, thank you for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right.
Item number 2, Mayor, is the appointment of the Technical Board of Appeals, which later in the agenda will be named the Construction Board of Appeals. I don't know if you've gotten names from your council members, or I know we have one name that you have included, but
Did y'all have any, I asked about this a long time ago.
I think I gave them to you a long time
I think Susan or Daniel you have them?
I have to search for them, but yes, sir, I have.
Okay, all right. So I don't know if you two did.
I have names I'm happy to give you
Okay.
tonight.
Give me a little bit of time.
Got to do it right now. No, I'm kidding, no. No, we'll,
5 members.
okay, right, okay. That's the Construction Board of Appeals.
Correct.
Right.
All right.
Anybody here want to serve on the Construction Board of Appeals? All right. All right.
The next item on the agenda is also the creation of a steering committee for the pilot sanitation program that Mr. Gebbia would like to introduce.
This is to council. What I'm going to ask each of you to do, if you don't mind, is provide 2 names from your districts. Mayor, you can pick 2 people at large. And I'll handle District 2. And what this is going to be is people that can help evaluate the progress of what we're doing in the pilot program. DeKalb County has secured the services of Kennesaw State University to provide recaps of what's been going on vis-a-vis our recycling effort, which is the cornerstone of what we're doing in our sanitation program. Again, to repeat, we're the only city that actually is participating with a separate 65-gallon bin that really is going to be the cornerstone of promoting increased recycling. So we want to have an objective review of this. I'm asking to have 2 people. I preferably would like to suggest choosing members of HOAs, presidents of HOAs that can help disseminate information out to the network. I'll let you choose. But we'd like to get that done sooner than later because we're going to be coming up to the end of our first month. We want to be able to report the results in our newsletters. And then we have to make a decision as we get towards the 90th day, because it's a 90-day program, of whether or not this program is going to go citywide. And we want to make sure that we have ample time to plan the distribution of the balance of the bins and the educational process and the forewarning with due process here.
Are any citizens in the room, are they a part of the pilot program? Raise your hand if you received the new cans from DeKalb County and are in the sanitation pilot program.
Has anybody up in the front here in the city government received theirs? Okay.
No? Daniel? What'd you say?
Hello, Ashford.
But we have 28 homes, 2,800 homes that are participating in the program.
Just not our
Isn't Ashford
neighborhood.
Park in it?
Yeah, they should be
Ashford
too.
Park, you're in it, aren't you, Ronnie?
Ronnie?
Well, I
You're
see-
in this
Raise your
program.
hand if you're in it.
Well, no, not everybody in Ashford Park's
Okay.
on it. I mean,
Oh.
but
No.
parts of it are included in the program. The map's online if
Right.
anybody wants to see. Oh, there.
Very nice.
Beautiful.
It's a DeKalb County program that they're administering, and we just want to get feedback so we can give it to the county and see what we can think of, if we can improve it or adopt it. So there are only 2,800 homes, so it might be hard to find, 8 people.
Yeah.
It's hard enough to find Construction Board of Appeals people.
It doesn't have to be anybody that's even participating in it, just somebody that's willing to help evaluate the information. planning on the eventual citywide movement of this.
Yeah, it wouldn't take up a lot of time. It's not
No,
big.
no,
It's
not
just
at
a
all.
steering committee.
No, just want to have independent review of the information.
Okay. Trey, are you in the program?
No.
Okay. All right.
Tell you, I am. I mean, I have the bins. I got to tell you, I wasn't a big recycler before. I feel purified. But I'm filling that blue container, and I'm having trouble filling my green container that I used to have overflowing with solid waste. It is amazing what you can do instead of those little 18-gallon pans, the buckets that you used to have. No blue bags, single stream recycling, everything gets thrown in. I'm packing that sucker out, and I'm really proud of doing it. And if it happens that way throughout the rest of the city, I think we're going to make major strides.
All right. Thank you very much, Joe.
You're welcome.
All right. Commendations, Chief Yandura. You're not in the pilot program either? You're on Harts Mill? I mean, no, you're not? Okay.
I'm not. Mayor, members of council, it's a great pleasure again. Our police department, all the officers continue to amaze me as far as the job they're doing, and we have 4 exceptional ones we want to make commendations for tonight. I'll call them up one at a time. Officer Alejandro Silva. This first one took place March 23rd at 9:30 p.m. Officer Silva noticed a suspicious vehicle in the area of Buford Highway without a license tag displayed. A short time later, Officer Silva noticed the same vehicle containing 3 occupants with the tag now displayed properly on the rear bumper. He initiated a traffic stop due to the circumstances and discovered 1 occupant was wanted, located marijuana, a loaded gun under the front seat, and identification found to belong to a victim of an armed robbery which occurred in DeKalb County less than 1 hour earlier. All 3 of the occupants were turned over to DeKalb County Police for the armed robbery occurring in their jurisdiction. And we believe they were also involved in numerous armed robberies of pedestrians along Buford Highway in our jurisdiction. However, we weren't able to get positive identification on any of them. But through this effort, Officer Silva reflects highly on his dedication and efforts within our police department, should be commended, presented by the Brookhaven Police Department, signed by myself and the mayor.
All right.
So,
Thank you.
All right, the next incident actually covers 2 officers, and that's 2 out of the 4 that we're recognizing tonight. Officer Vic Dankowitz and Officer Usman Latif. Officer Latif has already received, I think, 1 commendation. He does a great job. Everyone up here is doing a great job, but this case involved actually during the tree planting when Councilman Williams was complaining about the sirens going by. But this took place April 25th at about 10:07 a.m. Officer Dankowitz and Officer Latif were patrolling the area of Candler Lake West and Navajo Trail in the Murphy-Candler Park area, where we were experiencing a number of car break-ins and burglaries. Both officers located a suspicious vehicle back to the rear of a house with the door of the house standing wide open on the lower level. The officers approached the house, hearing and seeing male subjects inside, who immediately slammed the door and refused to respond to the officers' commands. Officers Dankowitz and Latif immediately requested assistance for a possible burglary in progress, and were able to make contact with another person inside the house who was actually a relative of the owner. Follow-up investigation resulted in a search warrant where numerous drugs, and I believe it was all 4 schedules of drugs, were found in the house. Weapons, and including explosive device materials, were found in the ceiling of the basement in the residence, and the 4 occupants were charged. Officer Dankowitz and Officer Latif are to be commended for their actions in this case. So.
Yes.
And the next one is Officer Trent Williams. Now, this one has special meaning to me because he cleared up a bunch of cases in my neighborhood. On April 26th at about 1:30 a.m., Officer Williams was patrolling the area of Harts Mill Road and Granger Drive, where we were experiencing a number of car break-ins and burglaries. Officer Williams had been provided information with some of the residents of a suspicious person seen in the area on previous occasions. I believe he was actually coming out of a driveway. One of the residents at 1 o'clock in the morning was out in his carport. Officer Williams located a subject matching this description during this time and was able to get him identified and charged with prowling, loitering, and public intoxication. Through Officer Williams' efforts, detectives were able, the very next morning, to obtain search warrants for the subject's residents, who actually lived on the same street. The search warrant resulted in the clearance of 6 entering autos and 2 burglaries in this immediate area, with much of the property taken, recovered, and returned to the homeowners. And just as a side note, this occurred, believe the recovery occurred Saturday morning or Sunday morning, and it was just a coincidence that we actually had a neighborhood meeting to discuss all these things the following Monday afternoon. So the people were pleasantly surprised when they received all their property back at this neighborhood meeting from Officer Williams. So Officer Williams should be commended for his actions in this case. So.
All right. So that's Silva, Dankowitz, Latif, and Williams. Sounds like a diversity seminar, doesn't it? Or law firm, yeah, or something.
I had no idea we had so much crime in District 1, but I'm so glad you've gotten the bad guys. I've had a number of residents thank me for this problem drug house on Navajo Trail. It's
Next to
been
the
there-
park, next to Murphy Candler Park, where the
Been
kids
there for a
are.
long time, and I'm so glad you guys got on it. And the chief didn't say that at this neighborhood meeting, he was like Santa Claus handing out Christmas gifts, giving back everybody their stolen items.
Well, the thing that I found about our police officers is that they're curious, and that goes a long way to good police work. When they see something that doesn't look right, rather than drive on by, they stop and take a look, and that makes a huge difference. And they're uncovering crime that we never knew existed in Brookhaven that was never ever going to be solved. And this is just a great police force. It's a testament to the folks you've hired, Chief, and I couldn't be more happy with our police department and the work that y'all do. So thank you very much.
Great work.
Got to mention the wings. Thank you.
So somebody putting a whoopee cushion on my chair.
It's not working.
Look at this.
Okay.
The next item is
We
the
did
parks
that.
purchase update.
Okay.
The city attorney and I met yesterday with the county attorney and the law department to discuss the purchase of the parks. And as we have discussed with you before, we are moving forward on that. Less one park, Brookhaven Park, and I'll let our city attorney report on that. But we are getting closer with the,
Well, do we not have, didn't the county approve the other parks?
yes, they did. And
Now,
so-
why don't we approve that tonight? Why don't we?
Because it has to go before their Board of Commissioners, which they're planning on doing next week.
Oh, I thought they'd already
Or
done
their
that.
board, Committee of the Whole, I think it is.
Yeah, and Mr. Mayor, this council has approved the acquisitions of the parks.
Mm-hmm.
The issue with regard to Brookhaven Park is we have also made a request for the purchase of the front track of the park in which the health service facility is operated. We discussed the fact that the most of that parcel is used as parkland and therefore should be included. We had a good discussion with the county attorney as well as with Mr. Zach Williams, the COO of the county, and we are delivering a proposal to the county attorney whereby we will purchase both tracks, allow the county to retain the parcel under which the health facility is, and in return for that, the city would then agree to maintain the entire park area other than that facility, plus maintain the parking area, both of which, the parking area is not in good repair, and the park needs some real work. But by virtue, if they would agree to this, then we would be able to fix the fence and really make that quite a showplace for the city of Brookhaven, and also relieve the county of a burden of the expense associated with that. In connection with that, we would come to an agreement as to reserve parking for the county's use during normal business hours, such that they will have that parking available to them, and also what necessary easements they may need for ingress, egress, utilities, whatever, in order to service that facility.
Is this proposal, are they aware of this proposal? Did it come from them, or are they?
No, it's a proposal we're making, and I've just edited it will be delivered to them tomorrow.
Was it discussed in the meeting at all?
Yes, it was.
And did they seem to be possibly open to it?
They were open to, I won't say what what they felt, other than the county attorney said, please put it in writing, that she would be making the recommendation next week during their meeting in executive session.
Okay.
Is there a time period in which their ownership of that facility would expire?
No, not at all. Plus the facility, it's burdened by a 50-year IGA agreement, under which the county pays for all the costs, which is not something the city, I would suggest, take over. And it's, the other point being is that there's really two other things one other thing I need to bring to your attention relates to the environmentals. We should have some additional testing done at both Brookhaven as well as Blackburn, because they are both down gradient from former gas stations or current gas stations and laundries, which have had hazardous releases. It's to determine if there's any effect on the groundwater. It's not a safety issue because everything else is on public water, but we should take that step to do that. Also, with regard to Brookhaven Park Parcel 2, we have to get the consent from the Secretary of the Interior. That's under the deed. So long as the city agrees to continue to use it as a public park and for recreational purposes, then that consent should be granted without any problem.
One other question. If in the event that we can find a better solution for the residents in that facility.
It's not residents, it's just they're users there.
Users, right. They don't live there. But if we can find an alternative and help facilitate a move to a newer building or something down the road, what would happen at that point? Is there any consideration in this agreement for how that transaction might?
Well, for there to be an agreement, they would have to agree to move.
Right.
And the real gist of it gets down to, it is what that facility is not a park. And they are arguing that none of Parcel 1 should go to the city, that they should keep the whole thing. And so we're having a disagreement over that one point. So what we were attempting to propose was a means by which we could get control of Parcel 1 other than this facility, to enable us to really maintain that as a park for the city and really do some work to it, which needs to be done.
Yeah. Compromise.
So are citizens calling their commissioners before the Tuesday meeting a good idea or not?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I'd like to ask our citizens if they would call their commissioner, Boyer, Gannon, or Rader, prior to next Tuesday's meeting to say, please approve the agreement whereby Brookhaven would maintain the area as a park as it's always been maintained. They need to hear that from our citizens.
Can we put
Yes,
this?
Ronnie, go ahead and say something.
Y'all were having these discussions, and y'all are really having DeKalb County owes the citizens of Brookhaven a new library. And right now, I think the figure is $4.2 million. I came up with the idea to put a library there on the side there, and the building there, the federal government spent $980,000 on the roof a wooden and it's rotten and eat up the termites. But, you know, I just don't want y'all to tie yourself down and then.
Well, we're just talking about the green space portion of it. We're not talking about purchasing or trying to purchase the building there. To Bates's point, I mean, that facility does a great service to the community, and we don't want to interfere with that. But if there's a suitable place for them to move, if they want to move, and if it's suitable, then I think we ought to try and pursue that. But otherwise, I think they should probably stay where they are for the time being. Yes, Mr. Dupree.
May I ask a question of the attorney, sir?
Just go ahead and ask a question. Yes, sir.
I'm a little confused. You talk about two parcels.
Right.
Does DeKalb at least concede that one parcel is a park and you're only arguing about the second parcel? Or they do not even concede that the one parcel is a park?
The question is do they, the park is actually two separate parcels.
Two 10-acre parcels,
Yeah.
split right down the middle.
Split right down the middle. The back parcel, the county has no issue with that parcel.
But there's no access to the back parcel without the first parcel. That's correct. Isn't that right? There's no access to parcel one?
That's right, but access would have to be granted if we were to unfortunately have to litigate the track one.
The second parcel, the 10-acre parcel, runs from Peachtree Road, the frontage on Peachtree Road to about the middle of the park is the parcel they're holding out and saying is not a park, even though it's been called a park and listed as a park, maintained as a park, and used as a park. Not a park, apparently. So that's the issue here. So I really would like for y'all to engage in emailing and calling your county commissioners. All right. Thank you, Marie.
Okay, next item is our zoning map update. We are, the good news is we're getting very close to completing that audit. Right now, the Pond and Company, the team that is doing the audit for us, is completing their research and all the parcels with discrepancies discovered in their phase one of the review. They're also going through photo document maps subsequent to 1965. Where we're headed, though, however, meaning that we're getting closer, we are looking at late June to hold an open house to display the map and all of the corrections that we found. And after that, it will go to the Planning Commission for a public hearing in July, and then come before the mayor and council for adoption of a new zoning map in August.
Can we put it online?
Go ahead, Ann.
There's another, just
Marie.
one other thing, just to give you again, the enormity of what's been going on. Activities that are pending, they're still waiting for an additional 58 zoning case files and 7 SLUP case files to come from DeKalb County. So, you know, and remember, last month it was 79 cases that they were able to retrieve. So, you know, they continue to find more.
Marie, is it possible to put the map, once it's finished, online?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because we really want
People need to look at it.
everybody's input. This is like getting the phone book. The first number you look up is yours, so we want to be sure everybody is checking the map
Yeah.
and giving us
What-
that feedback.
What's a phone book?
Recycling bin.
It's yellow. It's
You
a
know,
doorstop.
That's like saying, what
Some
time is it? You don't
dinosaurs
go like
continue
that.
to have them.
Well, this is ahead of schedule, isn't it, Marie, what you're talking about here?
It's a little bit ahead of schedule, yes. You know, we were hopeful that we would reach an August adoption date from the mayor and council. So, yes, it is, because we were thinking it could have been sometime in the fall.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're very pleased. It's really moving along, and Pond and Company has just done an excellent job.
So as far as all the records from DeKalb County, you don't think there's any holes in it anymore?
Well, no, they're waiting for 58 more files that have just been discovered.
Wow. Thank you.
Okay, our next item is sidewalk update, and we'll also do the paving update, so that's number 8 and 9, because Richard will handle both of those.
Good evening. On the sidewalk update, first of all, we went over at the work session, we went over the budget adjustments that we were doing to be able to complete the 2013 sidewalks. And where we are with the construction, we completed the Windsor Parkway Phase 1 sidewalk, which is a section from Osborne over to Mabry. There is going to be a Phase 2. That, right now, we're looking at funding that with the 2014 money. So we're not quite ready to, even though we have a bid ready to go, we want to finish the 2013 sidewalks first before we start construction on that last section. But we do anticipate starting that within a month, 1 to 2 months, once we get this 2013 sidewalks out of the way. On the rest, now that we have the budget stuff resolved, we have purchase orders either approved or in process for the rest of the project, for the rest of the sidewalks, and we can get those under construction. Once we get those purchase orders approved this week, we should be able to see construction on the rest of those, probably starting with the Harts Mill and the Curtis Road ones probably within the next week, and get those started, get those sidewalks going. And our goal is to get everything finished within the next month, of all these sidewalk projects within the next month. On the paving update, we have completed all of the paving of all the roads except for Pamela Drive. That's the one we have to do on a Saturday. We've had some scheduling issues with Saturday. I have talked with the contractor, and they are going to be doing it this Saturday. So it should be by this weekend, and they'll take 1 day to do that road. So by this weekend, all of the paving from the 2013 list will be done. On the 2014 paving, we have an invitation to bid out on the street right now. We have a pre-bid meeting with contractors scheduled for tomorrow at, I believe it's 10 a.m., either 10 or 11 a.m., I can't remember the exact time, but it's on the website. And I think bids are due for that, I believe, on, I can't remember, it's either the week after Memorial Day is their due, I think on that Monday or Tuesday. So I would expect the first meeting in June that we'll be coming to you with a contractor with a low bidder to get it under contract for that paving, with work to start in mid-June. We've put a part of the provision in that invitation to bid is we put in a 60 days to complete all the paving, and then there'll be a few, because of striping, you can't do you have to wait, after you do paving, you have to wait 30 days before doing permanent striping, so some of the striping will extend on, and but there's specific hard schedule dates in there for them to complete all that work within 60 days, all the paving work within 60 days, reinstallation of speed humps within a week of the paving being complete, things like that, to make sure that we have those controls in place so we can get this done quickly and get them in and get them out. So,
I have a question for you on the, looking at the estimated cost and the revised cost. Which one of those is the bid price?
The estimated costs are the only ones the estimated costs are the bid prices, with the exception of the Drew Valley Road, Kusawati, which in humility, which I'm still waiting on final bid prices on, but all those are the bid prices. The final cost is the actual construction cost, the actual final construction cost of those that have been completed. In Windsor Parkway, actually, I just got the Windsor Parkway invoice this afternoon, so that's why this wasn't updated on there. The total came in about $4,000 under what the estimate was, what the bid price was. So.
You're talking about the 2014?
2013. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was thinking sidewalk. Some reason I was thinking sidewalk. Sorry.
What are we reading?
Okay, sorry. Forgive me. We're talking about
Let's
paving.
start with Dunwoody Place, okay?
Dunwoody Place. What the difference is, the estimated cost was the initial cost we had estimated when we had bid it out. The revised cost is based on actual preliminary quantities and actual one of the things we had found when we had gone from the initial estimate to the revised is we underestimated the amount of milling that needed to be done on these roads. And that's where most of the extra cost was we had to mill off a larger area. We were thinking we could mill about 3 or 4 feet just on the edge of each road to kind of take the buildup down. But when we actually got out there with the amount of buildup we had on Dunwoody Place and Stratfield Drive, we had to actually mill the whole road. On the others, we had to mill about 6 feet from the edge on each side. So all the extra cost was in the milling. We did actually reduce, we came in under on the amount of asphalt, the amount of patching. We were able to eliminate a couple items with the patching because we did, one of the good things we found was when we did milled off all that buildup, we actually found that the original pavement in the base was actually in better shape than we thought it was. What we thought was base problems was really just problems with the top couple layers of asphalt that we ended up pulling off. And once we pulled those off, we found that we actually didn't have to do as much. Stratfield, we didn't do any patching on because we found what was there was really good. Dunwoody Place, we reduced the patching in half. Same with the other roads. We've had a lot less patching we've had to do. We've also reduced the amount of asphalt we've used has come in under what was original estimate. So,
I have a question for you, Richard. This may be for Marie. After the meeting, I think on specific roads, we did a laser truck analysis on all the roads, and so you can find out from our city staff where every road is ranked.
Hold on a sec. Hold on. Just hold on, Bates. Hold on, sir. Hold on 1 second. I don't see our policy for speaking out of turn and whatnot in our room. Or understand. We can't call out from the audience, and we can't speak out of turn because that leads to chaos. I understand your question. We'll address that, but we cannot catcall. We cannot come out from the audience without being at the podium with a card. We have to maintain decorum. I appreciate your concern, and we're going to talk about it, but just please keep that in mind. And we'll have our policy on, we're new to this building, obviously in this room. So is it up there? Okay. All right, somewhere.
The copy's in the back.
Oh, we need to have the sign up that we had in our other place. Thank you. He's referring to Pine Cone Lane.
Right.
I'm
I'll
make a
encouraging
note.
it by addressing it, but go ahead.
Right. I'd love if we can get an analysis for our citizens who do want to know where that is. Do we have that document of the paving analysis public on our website?
yes, it is on the website.
So we can refer people to the website, or if they have specific questions about where their road ranks, they
Richard,
can call you and find out.
If you could, on your phone or on your computer downstairs, look up what's going on with Pine Cone Lane and get this, Jim.
I can look it up. I have a computer up here that I can look it up on
If you did
right
this-
here.
If you could do that for us, I'd appreciate it.
My question was actually different for you,
Yes.
though. It was about two items. One, when you referenced the speed humps, I believe that's a very inexpensive way to create a speed hump. And I know that within the city of Brookhaven, we have some alternatives where I think Post Properties did some different speed calming devices where they put in islands in the middle.
Yes.
I'd like for us to consider those kind of alternatives as we look towards this down the road in our planning.
Under traffic calming, and I'm reviewing numerous traffic calming requests from neighborhoods right now.
Right.
That I'm trying to get out. But in doing that as a speed calming, I'm not recommending to them not only speed humps, but islands and other devices.
Right.
Other than just speed humps. And it's kind of, work one-on-one with each neighborhood about what
Right.
kind of devices they want in there. And so,
Yeah, if we can slow traffic down and
Yeah.
not have to go over 20 speed humps to get out of your own neighborhood.
well,
that's
there is,
sometimes a good-
with speed humps and the way they work is to slow traffic down. Whether it's speed humps, whether it's the islands like are on West Nancy Creek or
Right.
Candler Lake, usually the spacing in order to be effective is about 300 feet.
Yep.
300 to 400 feet is the typical spacing. If you put them up further apart, they're not really slowing traffic down.
So just in your considerations and proposals in the future, if you can have that
Yes.
alternative, that'd
We
be
do.
great.
I do.
Then the second thing was, as we're starting to embark on all of our sidewalks and street repavings, I want to know if we have a complete streets program that we can implement to talk about these transportation alternatives and create better bike lanes and.
One of the
that
things
kind
we're
of stuff.
doing, and at least when it comes to the arterials and collectors roads, is that even with the 2014 I am looking for any opportunity to add bike lanes to the roads. I know we don't have an official complete streets policy. I think we're discussing that as part of our comprehensive transportation plan. But specifically, the two roads, three roads in this year's paving plan, Ashford, Dunwoody, Dresden, and Lenox Park Boulevard, we're going to make every effort to get either bike lanes, if we have enough width, full bike lanes, if not, at least some extra wide, we'll pull the striping in on the travel lanes to create as much of a bike area as we can right now. Even without an official policy, I am looking at that.
Thanks.
All right.
Um,
Thank you.
You done?
Thank you. All right. And Richard, you'll get with this gentleman here. All right.
Mr. Mayor, while we were talking about those updates, especially from the 2013 list for,
We got to have, we won't tolerate out of line behavior. Where's our security? Thank you very much. Go ahead.
thank you. While we're talking about the paving plan, the sidewalks, and even parks, I brought up in the work session the status of the projects, of the 2013 Christmas list projects, and the additional funds that we needed to complete all of those projects. And what I'm looking for is an additional $195,000 that I'd like to pull out of the host funds. So if you don't mind, I'd like to ask you all, when we get to the new business, to amend the agenda, just to include the consideration of transferring $195,000 out of host funds to this Christmas list project of 2013 to complete it. I know we talked about it, but of course, we can't take any action in the work session, so I'd like to just be able to come full circle on it. Okay. All right, that takes us to the Police Department court update. As you all know, you approved the bid and contract to allow for the completion of the Police Department headquarters, along with outfitting our first floor for the court, for the judge's office, solicitor's office, as well as our bailiffs and our court clerks. That is moving along, and they're in full construction mode. We are expecting the first part of August to be able to move the court over, so we're watching that construction right now as far as timing, and we'll keep reporting to you on the progress.
Okay. Before we move to the next portion, I have a couple things I wanted to ask about. Can I?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Bonnie, there was are you aware of an issue for alcohol permit for the Shakespeare Festival that we have at Oglethorpe? Has that been taken care of? Do we know?
We're working on it.
Okay. Have we replied to the applicant?
Yeah,
Okay.
we're trying to find a way to make it work, but it's not looking like our ordinances allow it to serve alcohol on a school campus, is what they want to do.
College campus? Well, I mean, the Shakespeare Festival has been going on for years, and I know they've served. Can we do a special?
We're going to talk about that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, it's May 30th, I believe.
right, right.
Yeah.
I
Can we
just
make it
learned- I
happen
just-
now?
Yeah, I just learned about it about an hour ago.
Okay.
So I know that.
How
Bonnie
long has
understood.
this been going, the correspondence on this issue been going on? Do you have any idea?
They talked with Nathan maybe a month ago.
Right.
And he kind of told him, I don't see any way he can make it work.
Right.
But I think they wanted another answer.
Obviously.
Right.
Yeah. Why not, if you'll allow me and Tom to get together and talk about that with Bonnie, and we'll
Mm-hmm.
come up with a resolution.
Right. Something like this, though, I mean, I'd rather hear about this from y'all than from a resident, which
Understood.
that's a. Okay, did you have any comments or questions about that? And I was looking through one thing, just wanted to make sure I understood. On The financial policy we approved, this is for Marie and Bonnie, I guess.
Oh, yeah, I will.
On financial policy, it was on the consent agenda. Under number 2 is on page 41. I just had a question about it. Because this might cause some confusion with some residents. It looks like our budget hearing times have been compressed on this policy. I don't think we can, that's an ordinance that requires that. It's not under the financial policy, is it? On the hearing times for our budget? It says, the language is a little confusing. It says, no earlier than 7 days, after the proposed budget is transmitted to the city council, and at least 7 days in advance of budget adoption, a public hearing will take place to give the public an opportunity to comment on the proposed budget. Notice of the public hearing must be advertised at least 7 days in advance of the public hearing. Is that 14 days, 21 days, 7 days? I mean, all those three together, I'm not sure what that means. And does that jibe with our ordinance on the budget?
It does, and it's straight out of state law.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does it jibe, I mean, how is it, does it, Marie, if you have a comment?
Okay. This is state laws, as Bonnie has made mention of, but remember what our practice has been. We're
Right.
meeting the state law. This
Right.
is the policy. But we do more than the state law because, as you know, we have a number of hearings. We talk about it in work session, and then we have it as a public hearing. And in our last budget, we had 3 public hearings on the 2014 budget. So I expect that we will do the same number, if not close to the same number. We're only required to have a public hearing.
Right.
But that has not been the practice of this council.
Right.
And so it is my expectation on annual budgets that we'll follow the same course. And we'll also follow the same course whereby I'll be sitting down and meeting with each of you to be sure you understand the budget, that you'll be able to have an opportunity to meet with the finance officer as well, so that everyone is prepared. Right now, for mid-year budget adjustment, Finance, Bonnie and I met just last week, or was it Monday of this week? Yes, Monday of this week, just to go over the preliminary numbers. The department heads already have their information, and I'll be meeting with them as we prepare for the mid-year budget adjustment, which will be coming in probably the first meeting in July, since we're going to cancel the 24th of June. I'll be meeting with each of you individually after I sit down and meet with the department heads so that you're prepared, and I expect that we'll have it on a work session agenda, and then we'll have a public hearing. Since it's a mid-year budget adjustment, and there's really not much of an adjustment that's going on, except I'll probably be talking to you about the creation of the tourism budget for the first time that you'll see in preparation just for the end of the year, and then we'll have a new one for the whole year in 2015, and then some adjustments out of the 2013 host funds. So that's really the only adjustments I'm anticipating of any major concern. So we'll have at least a minimum of a hearing. And I believe a mid-year budget adjustment doesn't even require a public hearing.
So,
Or it does.
well, we'll have one.
Require advertising.
Advertising, that's right, excuse me.
All right.
It's a public hearing, but doesn't require advertising. But we have advertised our hearings in the past.
Okay, so yeah, we'll keep that.
We're going to keep our practice.
Okay.
And still meet state law.
So this language of 7 days is state law minimum. Okay, it's not what we necessarily do, it's just state law minimum.
That's
Understand.
not how we've operated.
Okay. All right.
Just to add on to that, I think that the mayor's pointed out something that if we can just make a change to this policy to reflect our actual policy, that would be very,
Okay.
that speak to the transparency of
Okay,
what
sure.
we are as a city. And if we can
You want it to come
find
back?
easy speak to
Yeah.
to revise these
Yeah.
no earlier than 7 days after, there's
Right.
got to be a better way to say that. And
Okay.
If that tracks state law, they need to amend state law too,
Yeah.
because that's confusing.
Well, we'll send them that message. But in the meantime,
fix it here.
Yeah, right,
fix
but
it
we'll
here.
fix it here
We can amend it.
first.
All right.
Would you like this to come back?
Yes.
And next agenda? Okay,
Yeah,
we'll do that.
We've adopted, we can
Right.
just amend it.
But
And
we'll
then-
have it for a point of clarification, and we'll include the practice of the city.
Right.
All right, and last thing on the debt financing, that's on the number 4 on page 43 and 44. It says, last clause says maintaining total debt service for general obligation debt that does not exceed 10% of the net operating revenues. So 10% of the net operating, what's that, $2.8 million or something like that?
Right. I mean,
debt service. So we could, in theory, this would let us have a huge debt, but we'd be paying, only could pay, I mean, the limit is only on how much we pay for the servicing of the debt, not on the debt in general.
I believe it's on the debt. Isn't it, it doesn't say debt service.
It does say debt service.
It says, yeah, it says that
Okay.
service.
Is that a typo, or is that right? I know, I don't know how these things,
Our total revenues are,
$27 million.
and we.
26, 27.
And our TAN was
5.1.
5.1.
Well, this
Would
year's
you-
Yeah, this year is,
3,075.
right, we took less.
But this is talking,
But
not about the
this
debt.
is talking about debt service per year.
Right?
Okay.
So if your debt service is not exceed 10% of net operating revenues, that'd be debt service of $2.8 million, or $2.7 million, right?
Yeah, and you're talking in, as far as general obligation debt.
That's service, that's not the actual.
That's service, no,
So-
that's not the debt, that's the servicing of the debt.
So the actual debt could be much larger than our budget, correct? According to this policy. Is that correct? Okay. Where did this language come from? If you could just give us a little summary on this, and if we need to adjust this for the next meeting, we'll do that as well.
Okay.
I've taken to holding the microphone like this, it's kind of silly.
Gonna get some-
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to take care of that.
All right. I'm sorry, go back to the agenda now. I'm sorry to get us off track there. We're just reading through some of this stuff, wanted to make sure.
Okay.
What is the debt service of the federal government?
Who knows?
No, don't even.
We don't want to.
Don't wanna go there.
We're not
That's not
talking
an
about
example we
raising
wanna
the
follow.
debt ceiling.
Right, no.
Okay, all right. We're at the point in the agenda for the public hearing items, which is on 911, a resolution establishing an enhanced 911 charge on wireless communications. Mr. Mayor, you need to open the public hearing.
Trying to get back to my section here. Hold on.
All I did was
the
hit go
resolution.
to.
Oh, did you? Okay, smarty pants.
Like that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just as this hearing is required by law, and it was duly noticed and published within 10 days of today. This is in connection with OCGA 46-5-133 and 46-5-134, which authorizes local governments to collect a fee on telephone lines, mobile phones, and wireless services. This is not an increase, but really just a transfer of the amount that the DeKalb County was collecting, but we too have to authorize it as a city. The amount of the charge for a wireless connection is $1.50 per month. For a wire line connection, which is a hard line connection, is $1.50 per month. And also for voice internet, it's $1.50 per month. There's a charge of 75 cents upon prepaid wireless service at the retail point of sale. And so those are the amounts that, based upon this resolution after the hearing, we would be assessing our residents in connection with the provision of 911 services. But to note again, there's no increase over what's taking place before. This is the revenue associated that the county was collecting that we would now be collecting.
So we're transferring the fees that are already being charged from the county to the city. So it's
That's
not a
right.
new fee and it's not an increase in the fees.
That's right.
That's clear, okay. All right. Open the public hearing on this.
Any comments?
Any comments on this, on the
No.
transferring of the 911 service fees over from the county or wherever your phone is registered to Brookhaven?
I do.
Yes.
Tom, or Marie, this goes to you. I think there's an issue with securing that fee from the prepaid phones. What type of an enforcement policy do we have for that?
Well,
And then this is a fee that's charged every phone.
Correct.
All we're attempting to do is redirect it towards Brookhaven
Correct.
because we're moving away from DeKalb County going into our own chat.
That's correct, and it's really the carrier who assigns and applies that fee on the statement. I've had conversations and meetings with Chatcom where we've talked about this, and they have said that they're going to help us, and they're going to take the lead on notifying all the carriers. But what's going to be most important is that the citizens look at their monthly statement and look to where that phone is assigned and where that $1.50 is being charged. Because if you bought your phone in Atlanta and you moved to Brookhaven, the carrier still thinks that that phone resides in Atlanta, and that 911 charge is going to Atlanta. So we've really got to launch a campaign to be sure that the public is aware and how they look for this charge on their phones. As far as the burn phones, the
Well,
prepaids,
may I stop you? That means that if someone comes into Atlanta from out of state with a different area code, those are the people you're trying to recognize to make sure they know where their fee is being assessed.
well, it doesn't even have to be a different area code. It could be 405, 404. It could be, you can get a number anywhere, no matter where you're located.
I know that.
So you could have a 404 number that you originated out of Atlanta or College Park or
I got you.
Alpharetta, and you move, most likely, your carrier doesn't know, even though you have a new address to send that statement to, most likely it's still going to be charged back to the origination of where the phone was purchased. So it's going to be important that we educate the public to look at that. Now, on the burn phones or these prepaids, we're going to have to go to all the retail outlets, notify them that, we are now going to be with Chatcom, and that all of the carrier fees need to be assigned to Brookhaven.
Can we
So,
use the chamber to do that?
No, we're actually working on that right now. I've worked with the Chatcom people. They've identified 81 different carriers that they've already started in the process of notifying that we're changing from DeKalb to Chatcom.
I mean, the chamber certainly is, if they have members that are retailers of cell phone devices.
The prepaids.
Yeah, prepaids, absolutely. I mean, they could be a big help of notifying their membership of this, but, that switch, there is a real balance here, because, we are looking at converting to Chatcom no earlier than August 1 and no later than September 30th. So up until whatever date the switch is made, it's still going to go to DeKalb County or wherever the carrier is sending that $1.50 to. So once that cutoff is made, we've got to be sure, and that's what Bonnie's working on right now, to give everybody those dates that this change is coming. But we're going to have to constantly monitor that.
Okay. Thank you.
Encourage those that move away not to change their number.
Exactly. Don't tell them.
All right. Any public comment on this? All right, we'll close the public hearing on the item number 1. Number 2?
Is a resolution, consideration of approval of a resolution establishing an enhanced 911 charge on wireless communications, wireline communications, voice over internet protocol connections, and prepaid wireless services within the city of Brookhaven. This was deferred from April the 15th, and recommending your approval.
All right, is there a motion? Go ahead, Bates.
Yeah, I'll move.
Just say the resolution number.
I'll move that we approve Resolution 2014-04-02.
I'll second.
Any discussion? I'll just say I'm excited about moving forward and continuing to move the ball on getting our own 911 service for the benefit of our citizens and public safety in general. Is there any more discussion? All in favor of adopting the resolution signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, resolution's adopted. Old business?
Old business is SLUP SLUP 14-01, Mohammed Kadir, request to locate a late-night establishment within 1,500 feet of residentially zoned property at 3337 Buford Highway, number unit 340C-/D. This was deferred, I guess that's suite number CD, deferred from April 22. Susan Cannon will present.
As Marie Garrett indicated, this is SLUP 14-01. The Mayor and Council held a public hearing on April 22nd, and you did defer this case until this evening. If you'll note in your packet on page 70, you will see the list of staff recommended conditions, of which the applicant has agreed to, with the exception of number 2, which relates to the staff's limitation on the hours being no later than 2 a.m. At the conclusion of the...
One.
I'm sorry?
That's number one.
Yes, sir, number one, I apologize. It's line 2, item 1. At the conclusion of the evening, on the 22nd, and when the council deferred this until this evening, the request was for the applicant to consider methods for barriers to sound and to possibly meet with the neighborhood. So we did receive some information yesterday from the applicant. That's in your packet as well, beginning on page 85. You'll see a letter from the attorney as well as information from their sound engineer with an attempt to propose mitigating.
Sir, can you put your hand down, please? I appreciate it. Can somebody please give the gentleman a copy of the rules for decorum and the, thank you, Aubrey.
The engineering letter identifies attempts to mitigate sound. The attorney and applicant are here tonight if you have any questions. And you did recommend, you did defer this till this evening.
What is your assessment of that? Do you have one of the sound buffering?
Well, I'm certainly not a sound engineer. The sound engineer did indicate that there needed to be some mechanisms in place for the ceiling to help absorb sound, to have doorways that closed upon entry to prevent sound from traveling outside. So with not being a sound engineer and relying on what they've provided, it appears that they have made an attempt to address that situation.
Do we know that indeed that it achieved its goal? I mean, the issue that we're always talking about here is a reflection on quality of life and the boom, the vibration effect. Now, that may not always be a decibel reading, as we've already discerned here at our meetings. I'm curious as to what was the process that was taken to validate whatever the status is.
I think that the sound engineer will probably need to address that with you in detail and
He here
identify for
tonight?
you. He is, I believe he's here
Excellent.
tonight.
Thank you. That's good.
No, he's not here. Okay.
But the
Okay, well,
applicant is-
there was a sound engineer here, but the attorney is here.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, it's good to see you again. I'm here on this SLUP application for Mr. Mohammed Kadir. The proposal is to do a restaurant because of its proximity to residential nearby. It's considered a late-night establishment under the ordinances of the city of Brookhaven, we understand. The main issue when we left last month related to the sound, what we did was we engaged a sound engineer. We scheduled a time for him to go. We got the names of all the folks that were here at the council meeting last time and informed them about a week in advance and invited them to come see the sound study. I think the couple days before we even went to the list of folks that were at the planning commission meeting, invited them to attend also. One person did attend. We talked to several of them, but one person did attend. Mrs. Pat Thomas came and spent about 45 minutes with our engineer. And what the engineer did was he went and examined, the commercial limit is for an industrial area is 80 decibels. So he put the sound equipment inside the business and raised it to 100 decibels, went outside, and what he concluded was after about 15 or 20 feet, couldn't hear anything. So he said it wasn't even really worth it to go out because when we talked to Deputy Chief Freeman, he said, the industrial decibel level is interesting, but his measurement, if somebody calls him to complain, is he's going to go in their house and see if he not only hears the sound, but hears the vibration. But we knew based on the 20-foot distance that you couldn't hear anything. So we, but out of the concern that were raised last month about Atlanta Peach Ballroom and the sound that emits from that location, we were concerned about being accused of being the source of the sound. So this letter is written a little weird from the engineer. It suggests that he's saying that you need to do these things to prevent the sound from violating the ordinance, but that's not what he meant. What he meant was you can do these additional things so that leave no question. If you do these 3 additional things, which is basically put sound mitigating on the roof. They call it contact on the glass, and then the foyer going into the business. Basically, there's 2 doors. You go in one door, close it, you go in the other door, and so no sound can get out. And that's what we've proposed. I don't know if I can call him my colleague. He's a new lawyer, and he's my nephew, too, who hasn't agreed to join my firm yet. So he's got his own firm, so that's the confusion why it came in a different letter. But he just presented you a bit different set of conditions. There's 2 different conditions, and if you look at condition number 5, it deals with a revised sound, condition related to sound based on what happened there. We basically took the language out of the ordinance and said that at all times, the level associated with the restaurant shall be set below the level that is plainly audible anywhere within the interior of a sealed single-family dwelling. That's straight out of your ordinance. And for multifamily dwellings, not loud enough to project, emit, or transmit within the common area of the multifamily dwelling area. So that's language directly from the ordinance. We think it's more restrictive than the industrial limits, which allow you to go to 80 decibels in that area.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yep.
I'm looking at this letter from Atlanta Sound and Lighting. I'm familiar with what the icing is, and it's also a very good insulator for temperatures, so it'll help with your heating and air conditioning costs.
Oh, okay.
It'll cut your bills. So these 3 things that are recommended by Atlanta Sound and Lighting, you're agreeing to do?
Yeah, we're asking that they be included as conditions of
Okay.
the CO. Yeah. The other
What was
item.
it, did the lady who did show up, did she have any comments, or she just listened?
She said, I mean, I thought she might have been here today, but she said that it was acceptable to her. She spent about 45 minutes, and I don't know if you remember, there was a young lady here who's brought her older mother
Right.
as well,
Mhm.
somebody different. She chose not to attend, but we had a long conversation with her about what we were going to do, and then we talked to her after.
Okay.
And she seemed satisfied, so.
Well, I don't see anybody. Is anybody here to talk on this petition tonight? Any citizens? You got one? Okay. Well, we're going to wait for Muhammad to, I mean, not Muhammad. Sorry.
It's close.
To finish, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
That's okay. And just to quickly reiterate the conditions for anybody that was concerned, again, nobody from the Planning Commission, not the Planning Commission, that spoke at the Planning Commission meeting was at the City Council meeting, I understand, but we still contacted them and invited them, and they didn't respond to that. And we did, a couple of folks that were here at the City Council meeting left before we were able to get their contact information.
Mhm.
So there's a woman from the AutoZone who we weren't able to reach, but she didn't attend the sound study. But the conditions relate to confirming with number 1 that that we will maintain a full service restaurant at all times that the business is open, that we will have a name and contact number for a 24-hour contact person for anybody to make a call, and we're going to address the concerns immediately. That we're going to hire a full-time off-duty City of Brookhaven police officer for the hours that we're open after midnight. We hope that'll help our patrons and also hopefully help the area as
Can
well.
I stop you right there for a second? Chief, that's our policy for our police officers. If they're hired by an establishment, they do not enter the establishment in case of an emergency is the only time.
It's only outside.
They stay outside. All right.
Okay. No dance floor. We wanted to confirm that this is not a nightclub for dancing. I discussed item 5 related to the sound level. We put this condition number 6 in there. I've seen this work in other jurisdictions where the applicant presents a report a couple times a year about how the business is going, and it can appear before the council, or it can be an administrative report, and you all can decide whether you want to bring them back before this body to discuss any issues that might arise.
One more interruption, sorry. I'm going to interrupt your flow. I just
Okay, that's
want
all
to try to expedite things if
Yep.
we can. The condition number 1, what was the reason y'all didn't want to comply with it? Did you say they didn't want to comply with condition number 1?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Condition number 1 is condition number 12 on this list. Because
On your list?
Yeah, and basically what we're asking, the way we drafted this is just to be able to have the hours that are allowed of any other late-night establishment, but we made it whatever the City of Brookhaven allows, because we understand you're considering legislation that might reduce the hours for all late-night establishments.
Mhm.
So we just wanted to be consistent with them. We didn't think it was a offensive request, particularly since we're going to hire an off-duty police officer, and we think that off-duty officers may assist with some of the problems that exist in that plaza right now, which our client is concerned about as well. So that was our request, that we did not want to be restricted to the 2 a.m.
Right. And staff recommended that you finish your presentation, and we'll have
Yeah.
more questions.
We understood that the recommendation was based on comments from the police department about the 2 a.m., and at least that was the report from the staff report, and we were trying to respond to their concerns by doing that. The other conditions, I think you've seen, 5-year limitation, the use permit is not transferable, which were recommendations of staff. I changed condition number 5 because I think that came up. I had said before that the applicant shall not advertise the location as a nightclub. We included not be used or advertised as a nightclub. And we certainly won't exceed the building occupancy, which I think is less than 80 people at a time. So it's a small group of folks that'll be there. There's not gonna be any lines outside. It's really gonna be.
There's no velvet rope?
No velvet rope. It's gonna
Okay.
be what we represent it to be, but we're available to answer any questions after you receive some comments.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And sorry to interrupt you so many times.
That's okay.
Okay. Any public comment on, do you have any, bring it up, Mr. Matthews, if you would, please. Yeah, this is opposition or support of the establishment.
Okay.
I'll make it short. I still contend with, after the meeting we had yesterday and the issues that you're trying to settle as a city, it has nothing to do to cut back on someone making a business establishment in Brookhaven, but I just don't see how you can take an isolated small slot of property right on top of a neighborhood and give them an extended hour when you're trying to make a proper business decision as a city of what to establish for late night establishments. So I think we're trying to get the cart ahead of the horse. Again, is the same thing I said last month. And it's just, when you talk about an establishment with 108 seating capacity, there's something just don't read right in this story. To be a late night establishment and be no line, something don't jive.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Next. Sure. The gentleman want.
Mayor.
Chester, if
Yes.
you,
Well, there's a, all right, we'll get him, but we got this.
Chester, you can come on up if you want to say something.
So your right hand. All right, you're at the podium.
All right. All right. My name is Chester Thrash, and I was wondering, is it possible you can get them to announce the name of the businesses that they're talking about? Because I didn't know what they were talking about.
Oh, okay. What is the name of the business?
Excess Restaurant and Lounge.
Excess?
Excess restaurant.
E-X-S, E-X-C-S-E?
XS.
Oh, an X and an S. XS.
Okay.
All right.
And could you get people to mention their names when they come up to the podium?
Yes, they should mention the names.
Please, thanks.
We will do, we'll make sure we hold to that policy.
Good point. Thank you
Yeah,
very
thank
much.
you.
Thank you, Chester.
All right, sir, ma'am, y'all want, did you have a comment? Did you want to?
Good point.
Identify yourself. Who you are. To the oldest living resident.
Yes, our favorite oldest living resident of Brookhaven.
What is your name?
My name is Nell
Early,
Early.
yes.
Key Early.
Okay.
K-double-E.
You're the oldest living continuous resident in the city of Brookhaven. You've paid taxes for 67 consecutive years. Is
All
that
right.
correct?
So, the county
You cross-examining your mom there?
The county should be good.
All right. What she's saying is that.
Let's, do you want to speak real quick first?
Pardon?
You want to speak real first?
That's early.
No, I just was going, I don't have anything to say.
You don't?
Yeah, well, you tell the story. Okay?
Go ahead.
You're a country girl from Meriwether County, okay? But enough of that. Okay?
Go ahead.
But
That's why I've lived so long.
this whole thing, okay, is wonderful on Cheshire Bridge Road, okay, but not in her backyard, okay, which the maps are all distorted, okay, because they're pulled off on Google. And if they did a land survey, it puts it literally in her backyard.
What is your address, Ms. Early?
Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Pinecone Lane.
That's
You're on
correct.
Pinecone
Very,
Lane.
very end
All
of
right, so,
Pinecone Lane.
and a planning commission unanimously voted, okay, said, no way, no how, okay? Go to Cheshire Bridge Road, okay? Which makes perfect sense, because that's where the paint coating needs to go, okay?
Right.
Enough said, and we're not gonna take any more of your time. But don't put that in my mother's backyard, okay?
Thank you.
You know, she can see, you know, that's how close it is, okay?
Thank you.
And I
Well, it's
know
right at the
This is
the
a
fence.
neighborhood, okay? And the mayor has done a great job with his police chief and his officers and all this. And these elderly ladies are elated. But to bring that element into their neighborhood, I mean, is just, you know, it catches them by the throat, okay? But the chief has done, and you've done it, Mr. Mayor. You put the sidewalk, you put the chief, boom. We don't need that kind of stuff, okay? An all-night, what do you call it?
I call it a juke joint. I don't
juke
know what
joint.
you people might call them, but that's what,
We're out of here. We're out of
we
here.
always call them
We're
juke
out of here.
joint.
We're
Thank you.
gone. We're gone.
Thank you, Ms. Early.
We're gone. We're gone.
Not a shot shack, but a juke joint, all right.
We're gone.
Oh,
All right.
okay.
Thanks for your time, Mr. Mayor. My sandals are coming off my feet. That's all right. That's what you call it. right?
Thank you, Ms. Early.
Thank you, Ms. Early and Mr. Early.
Well, thank you so much.
All right.
We appreciate it.
Yes, come on down.
Have a seat, have a seat, have a seat.
Just state your name, please, and
My name
where
is
you live.
Tareke Hatgu.
Tareke Hatgu?
Yes, they call me Mr. T.
Mr. T,
Yes.
all right, all right.
I got a business on the same plaza Mohammed Kadir he's trying to rent. I personally, I never met them, but this is second year and I came. Because I own a business, I am affected by this. And
What is your business?
Well, it used to be a supermarket, but I converted it into a restaurant and a bar.
And under what name, please?
Acapulco. And Nathan Holder was pretty much helping me, and really he's a very, very good guy. And it took me 7 months to get my permit because Brookhaven, you were not well equipped, so you got to send me back to DeKalb. You go to DeKalb, the moment they know you are Brookhaven, you are always in the bottom of the list. So 7 months and $5,000 rent, I paid $35,000, and I lost all my business. So I hope at this time you are well equipped and you can help all the.
Yes, there were a bunch of permits that,
Yes.
when we first started, that were still, if you initiated your permit under DeKalb County, they kept the money and they were supposed to keep processing the permit.
Yes, it was a mess.
Yes, it was.
Now I'm pretty much pleased, and the main reason I'm coming here now is the closing hours of the establishment. Not the same plaza, there is one called La Palma, they just opened it. And there's another one called Atlanta Peach. And there's another one, Remix. And the fourth one is Cream. Some of them, they close 5 a.m., some they close 4 a.m. And I see for Mohammed, he trying to question him to close by 2, really ain't fair at all. Because I am directly affected by this decision that you're going to make. Am I going to close by 5 or by 4 or by 2? Really, this is the reason I came. This is my second time. And the council woman, I think she mentioned the last time on 22nd, fair is fair, all establishments, they should close at the same time. Even for the police department, it's much easier.
What time do you close?
I just opened 2 days ago.
Oh.
What time do you close?
But I have been told 12 midnight. And in midnight, people go out for, to entertain themselves. I open all day long and close 12 o'clock, where is the fairness at all? So I suggest and I ask you to look a good look at this issue. It's not only about Muhammad Kadir, but all the businesses around in Brookhaven. So in regard to the sound systems, I am 3 doors away from Atlanta Pitch. They bring 3 bands from Mexico on Saturdays and Sundays and Mondays. It's a big hall. And inside, they carry about 5,000 to 6,000 people. And I barely hear any sound outside. I've been there for 2 years, and I never hear any sound. So the council is talking about sound, no sound. Believe me, to me, it don't make any sense. I've been there for 2 years, and there is no outside sound.
And where the sound we're hearing from is probably coming from the back and emanating down into the residential areas, and that's where
It is far away.
Yeah.
I know, I've been there for 2 years. And now start even myself playing music. The apartment's far away. Even now, sorry to say, there's something called La Casa, a little bit like a little bit 1 block away from around QT gas station. It is less than 500 feet inside those apartments, and I hear you're going to open it next week. And I say, where is the fairness? And I'm just patiently listening. Everything was going on. I'm trying to help you out with what, on your decision. But from what I hear, really ain't making a sense at all. So my request is, if you can make, if it is 2 a.m., let everybody close 2 a.m. If it is 3, let everybody close 3 o'clock. But grandfather, grandmother kind of law, less than 500 feet inside apartments, La Casa, and open a nightclub. I don't think, I live in all the way down in Duluth, but I practice in Brookhaven. This is where my bread and butter is. And I hope if you want to contact me, can contact me anytime.
All right, thank you.
If you got any questions, you can ask me.
So you opened your place, it's a restaurant bar or a restaurant?
Bar and restaurant, yes.
So there are different hours. Susan, can you just use your microphone there, if you would?
Mr. T, stay here, please.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the hours for a restaurant bar are midnight?
Well, if you're a late-night establishment, if you serve alcohol after 12:30.
Okay.
So if he's closing at 12, he's not considered a late-night establishment.
So what would he have applied as, just as a restaurant?
I haven't seen his paperwork, and I'm not sure that,
This is the bar that I have.
okay, yeah,
I
I
have a
haven't.
bar that I have. I pay my tax just like anybody else.
I haven't seen his
No,
paperwork.
I never met you. But Nathan Holder, he's a wonderful guy. So I want to say
Well,
that.
your hours are dictated by what kind of establishment you are. And if you applied as a restaurant.
It's a bar. Well, I'm
I
not
don't-
interested in the restaurant. But here in Georgia, if you want to open a bar, they ask you gotta have
Food.
food.
Right.
That's all it is. But I ain't interested in any food.
Oh, we should talk to Hakeem over there. There is a distinction. So if you apply
Yes.
for your license as one thing, that's why your hours are governed by.
Yeah,
So that
but
so we have to make
I
sure.
applied for a bar. That's what I am doing.
Well, then your hours should be what?
That is the
If it's a
issue. That's the
restaurant, it's
sticky
12:30, right? I don't know of any establishment that has a 12 o'clock limit.
issue. It is a kind of, well, maybe it's been inherited from DeKalb County, but you guys here in Newtown, just do something about it.
Well, we need to clean it up because it is
Clean
confusing.
it up. You got a lot of
Very
cleanup to do.
confusing.
It is confusing.
Where's Nathan when you need him?
Well, Nathan,
All right, thank you very much.
thank you, man.
Thank you, Mr. T.
Okay.
Acapulco? Is that his
Acap-
name?
No, his club is called Acapulco. Yes, it is. All right. Any other comment? Yes, yes, sir.
Hi, everyone. Brad Bergeron. I live in historic Brookhaven. My concern is actually with the sound, not the, I'm actually a sound engineer, not with the building itself. You can control all the aspects of that. The patron base and their vehicles and the sound systems of those individual vehicles, that becomes the issue. I lived at 1016 Lawson Midtown for a while. An establishment opened up next door. Could never hear anything from the establishment, but from the vehicles that came and parked and pulled up and drove by, booming, thumping music all the time.
There's an ordinance for that, I think, too, isn't there, Chief?
Yeah. But, as an owner, they can't control that. That's a cause for concern, though.
Yeah, well, we have a police force that's going to.
Yeah.
Because I'm very aware of that as well, and I know, I don't know if y'all have written any citations on that. You have?
Yeah, for vehicles, yes.
You have? Okay. And would the officer, if there was an officer working at this establishment, he'd have the right to, even though he's, to cite folks for booming vehicles?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I would just hate for that to be an obstruction for them to get their business moving.
Right.
Because I know that that's always been an ongoing concern, not particularly where I live now, but where I've lived previously.
Right. So, I mean, being a sound engineer, it's the lower frequencies that travel.
Absolutely.
And that's what people don't.
And the study that they did on their place is probably bulletproof. I mean, 20 feet outside of a well-insulated establishment, I mean, you're not going to get anything that's noteworthy. Even those low frequencies, if the building is properly insulated and they've done all of the treatments that they've recommended, they're going to be fine. But again, you can't control other businesses, like they mentioned. You can't control, individuals in their cars. I mean, you can try to patrol and deter all of that, but it's not going to stop it.
Yeah, Virgil, right?
Brad.
Mr. Bergeron.
Mr.
Bergeron,
I'm sorry.
yes.
Brad, let me ask you a question.
Sure. Let's go with that. Virgil.
There's a song after that. Brad, does sound travel different during the day when you're standing 20 feet outside versus at night?
Tricky question. Yeah, yes and no. Theoretically and perceivably, no. Scientifically, yes, because it depends on humidity, temperature. There are several variables. The air is theoretically thinner in the evening, so it can travel further.
Okay, well, so Mr. T stood up there just before you. I never hear anything from the ballroom. He's not reading emails we're getting, I can tell you that.
Well, sure, and I don't know how much of that is actually from the ballroom, how much of it is from their patrons and their vehicles. 'Cause that could be a huge part of this. I don't know how many people have actually tracked down the source of it and said, this is for sure the ballroom, not someone's car parked outside of the ballroom.
Right.
Chief, do we know, for example, could this be really the cause of this? Cars outside the ballroom?
I think we've been aware of, there were cars outside causing the problem. Where everyone's saying it's the building itself.
Yeah.
It's not so much the noise, like the last
vibration.
couple complaints, it was the vibration.
Now, as a note, this establishment didn't have an acoustical study done and have someone discuss proper insulation methods with them. So it's a well-founded concern, and the same things that are being applied to these gentlemen over here should be applied to this establishment as well.
We're moving in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, that would be my recommendation. If it's a continual source of.
It is.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Bergeron. We appreciate it.
No problem.
All right.
Thanks, Virgil.
Virgil. All right. Who's next? All right, Hakeem?
Just very briefly, I don't know if I've enjoyed, I'm a client, I hope you're going to get mad at me, enjoyed listening to opposition to a case as much as I have to this one this evening. Very, very interesting comments. I haven't seen the Brookhaven ordinance to see if it says this, but I know most ordinances I deal with, I always counsel my clients that the licensed premises includes not just the interior of the space, but all the locations outside where their patrons might go. And that's how the City of Atlanta ordinance is written. So if there's something going on in the noise violations or crime or other things like that, they're responsible and can be cited for those things. Even if they share a parking lot in this plaza, you could be cited for that. So that might be a consideration for you. I've already counseled my client that he's responsible for that, which is one of the reasons he's recommending an off-duty officer at the hours when he thinks he can have some control of the areas where they are located. I've represented and represent bars, restaurants, and nightclubs and lounges separately. There's very distinct differences, and it's always related to how they operate. We've created conditions here that we hope make clear that the intention is to be a restaurant. I'll give an example of the Opera nightclub in Atlanta. It has a restaurant license, but they charge for patrons to enter. They have a rope that goes down the hall, and there's very little food there if you go in there at any time that it's open. So that's why we wanted to make clear that there is always going to be food. There is never going to be a charge. There's going to be this off-duty officer. We're going to control. There's not going to be an entry fee. We're not going to advertise, because sometimes a restaurant is a restaurant, but they advertise as a nightclub, or they have a dance floor. So we believe these conditions we've created make it clear that it's going to be a restaurant. He's going to be responsible for inside and outside. The sound is going to be addressed, and I hope that it's satisfactory to you all. And we just want to be treated like everybody else with respect to the hours of operation. Mr. T, I guess he has the right, because every use permit is considered on its own merits individually. If he wants to do a sound study and come in here and try to make a case to you all to get his hours extended, I think that's his right. But I hope that his comments, I think some of them were for us and some of us were not, but I hope his comments with respect to the sound would be respectfully not considered as a part of this request.
I understand.
Ms. Early, and I appreciate her comments, it was her daughter that we talked to before and after, and my colleague actually drove around the neighborhood. He didn't knock on the door. I didn't want him to scare anybody, but her home is actually located behind some apartments and other single-family homes before you reach her home. So 1,690 some odd feet to the closest single-family home, and that's another few hundred feet away from her home. So we're hoping that there's never going to be a problem for her, but what we've told her daughter is that this name and contact number will be immediately and directly and always responsive. And if they're not, cite them, because we want it to be a condition of zoning. So,
right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more comment? All right. Any questions from council?
I'm still bothered by sort of an issue of fairness. I still don't, I'm not convinced that the other 4 a.m. clubs are either operating with the SLUP, which they should have had through DeKalb. I guess we haven't been able to track that down. We've renewed a number of these clubs. I don't know that we've required a SLUP. I think we just haven't gotten our hands around it. And I don't want to encourage another late night club, but I think in all fairness, that this young man has a right to open up a restaurant on the same terms as his competitors and the same licenses that we've been giving out to, a half a dozen other people in the same shopping center.
I'd like to direct city attorney to see if we can get a handle on this issue.
I've been asking this question now for several weeks, and I know Susan has done a lot of research on it, but I think you've told me that we don't know if they have a SLUP. We don't know, but all of these have had renewals through us. So, I mean, do we not ask? Do we, now we require him to come before us to get a SLUP?
I'd just like
I just
I'd
don't
like a
understand the
policy
process.
I'd like a policy that's clear, so we don't run into this problem anymore. I mean, this is something we've inherited, obviously. So we have a duty to improve what we had before, and that's what we've been going through our code to do, and that's part of the process. So I would like to direct Marie to direct staff to come up with a policy on this issue that Rebecca's talking about, that we keep hearing about SLUPs, restaurant, bar, closing times. We need a clear, delineated policy on this issue. If you could get with Susan and Marie, Tom, to make it so that we have some finality to how we figure this out in the future, I would appreciate it.
Hakeem, maybe you know this. Shouldn't these other late night establishments that were originally licensed through DeKalb, shouldn't they have a SLUP?
Well, it depends on whether there was a SLUP requirement at the time they opened. Because a SLUP is a zoning
Right.
a decision.
When did that come into effect?
I don't know.
No?
You mean in DeKalb County?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not certain.
I mean, I think it's been around for a number of years.
Yeah.
And then do you know if at the renewal it was looked at all, or does the grandfathering go on forever?
I think it's because it's a zoning decision. If the SLUP isn't limited by time, they automatically renew. every year. You can't take that away. You can take that away, the alcohol license, because it's an annual license, but the SLUP is a zoning decision that, it's a little different, though. I guess it's a late-night establishment selling alcohol. So let me take that back. I'm not certain.
See, nobody knows.
Yeah.
I mean, the two are intrinsically tied together, but you're right, they're very separate things. One's an alcohol license and one is a zoning.
Right.
But we've obviously had businesses come before us and apply for a business license or an alcohol license.
Yeah.
And they might have
It's
just
for-
said, I'm a
I think it
restaurant,
says it's for
or a restaurant and a
one or
bar,
two
and
events or
they get a license, and they're really probably supposed to close at 12:30, but they stay open till 2:30. What I'm aware of,
I
right?
believe you could ask for a SLUP. I think you could require them to apply. That's just.
Well, I'm not sure I think a SLUP is a great idea. And as you know, we are working on dialing back our hours somewhat. I don't know what they're going to be, and I think your client's aware of that. But, so, whatever we do will really just be through the rest of this year. And by the end of the year, probably we'll have some standard closing time in place, hopefully. At least that's the goal, I hope. But I just don't know how we can deny this when we've let everybody else and all of his competitors have the same license and opportunity to run their businesses.
Okay, so I see this as three issues, and I'm going to propose something to you, Hakeem. The first issue is fairness in hours. You have a very, very valid point. The second was the noise issue, and that's a really sensitive issue right now. You've apparently moving in the right direction, trying to attack this, I think, with the proper way. We appreciate that. The third, though, this is a SLUP. Okay, so maybe the other accounts aren't, but this one's coming to us as a SLUP. And that's not something that's readily given out. So I have a proposal. Tell me what you think of this. What if we were to approve competitive hours as a late-night establishment, as a SLUP, but it's for 5 years, but it's reviewed annually based upon proper performance of maintaining sound controls, and then anything else that happens as far as a negative incident will always be handled by another ordinance, whether it be an alcohol violation or serving a minor, and the point on having a police presence exterior-wise would have to be during the times of, say, 11 to close.
Right.
They have it in their thing as 12, anything after 12.
All right, well, that's fine, but like not 1 to 2 or 2 to 3, right through the whole time. And if
Any
a
time after
Brookhaven police
operation at
officer is
12.
not available, then you have to default automatically to a DeKalb.
Right.
And we're not concerned about that at this point. We would do that only because we didn't have the proper manpower, and we will have chat. In effect, then, we won't have the negative situations that were happening because of DeKalb 911. That is a proposal that I'd like to throw out for consideration here.
What about the staff conditions? There's 4 staff conditions.
Well, let's go through them one at a time.
Well,
okay?
Susan did go through them, and
Susan, you want to come up and let's review those one more time, see how that incorporates?
The staff conditions are incorporated in
Into
the
his-
applicant's letter, so his
It
list
is?
is more extensive than the staff conditions.
except for hold on, except for that number 1.
Number 12 is number 1, but it's,
Well, they
certainly
changed.
number 12 is more lenient, yes, that's
Right.
correct, yes.
So that's
But
not a
he's
staff.
incorporated the other ones.
Yes, ma'am.
Just want to point out that that's not a staff condition. That's a difference in the staff.
Number 12
It's
is
about
in
hours.
conflict
With the staff condition.
with the staff condition, right?
But we've just addressed that.
No, the staff condition is 2 a.m. What the number 12 is from the applicant is any time that anybody else gets to operate.
Well, that's what we're discussing here about, is a sense of fairness.
Well, sense of fairness, it should not dictate the fact that we're in the process of looking at these hours and changes, so we don't want to
Well,
all
it
of
would
a
be
sudden
subject,
entitle.
it would be subject to whatever that outcome would be anyway. Just like
Not
everybody-
sure,
just-
would it be?
Just like everybody else.
It would.
Yeah.
Sure, it would affect everybody.
Yeah.
That would be the sense of fairness.
We've written it to say that, yeah.
And if hours were to go back for some reason, you'd probably fare out better than most because your initial expectation was 2:30 latest.
Look, we've got to
Reality.
do a better job of stopping the noise from any club in this group. Mrs. Early shouldn't hear a sound from this whole complex of wherever there are clubs. This isn't going to be one of the larger ones. I mean, Peach Ballroom is huge. So I don't know who the offenders are, but she shouldn't hear anyone. And we need to protect her peace. And I think that the chief is totally committed to doing that, and has deployed his officers to do that. And hopefully we're going to continue to strengthen our noise ordinance to make it clear that we're just not going to tolerate this kind of late noise that disturbs the peace of our good citizens. And I just have to believe that you all are coming to us in good faith, saying that you want to be a good citizen and a good businessman, and you do not, you pledge not to be disturbing the peace with your business. I mean, that's the only really contract we want from you. I mean, we want you to abide by the law and be a good citizen here.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to point out in the language, it says to accomplish these objectives, the applicant shall incorporate the 3 recommendations made by Atlanta Sound and Lighting in a letter dated May 10th. That language to me is a little wishy-washy. To accomplish these objectives, and there's objectives, incorporate, and recommendations. I'll just make them requirements rather than saying, that you would have to cut and paste those 3 things.
Yeah, that's the intention, so we can change it that way, yes.
Then you have to take that one step further. If the recommendation still did not satisfy the requirement, then we would need your cooperation to ensure. This is a simple problem we think is manageable, and we just want your commitment that it's not going to be a problem. I mean, it's manageable.
Yes.
So that's the 4 inches of icing in the roof. The front door will have a foyer entrance so that you can, when you're, because that's an issue. If you have a door open, that's when the sound comes out. So you have a open door and a closed door, and then when that one closes, the other one opens, so there's doesn't escape. And then the glass deadened utilizing icing and sheetrock barrier or replaced with a barrier structure. That's kind of vague. What is the plan to do with the glass at the front of the building, with the resonating?
I think the decision was to do the icing
on the glass, so you wouldn't be able to see out, or
confirm that for me. No, you can't get back after. Come up here.
Your turn, Mohammed.
The options are to do the icing or the sheetrock. That would make it not visible from outside. The sheetrock barrier?
Okay. All right.
I just want to confirm the hours so that I understand it. So the current late night establishment hours would be 3:55 a.m. Monday through Friday and 2:55 on Saturday and Sunday? Is that correct?
Basically 4
With-
That's not your
it's
intention.
four-
I mean, that's, I don't know. That's a.
Is it your intention to?
My intention not to close at 4 o'clock, but I don't want it to be limited, just for the fairness. But
Right.
I'm intent to close 3 o'clock, no matter what it is.
3 o'clock. And
Yeah. I'll do my last call at 2:30 and have everybody out by 3.
Set the good example.
Yes.
I like that.
All right. Anything else? Anybody else have any questions?
Okay, but given what that was just said, just for clarity purposes, thank you, Bates, it's still a 3:55.
It's
2:55.
voluntary. We're
And then the
giving
voluntary
him-
closure early is his option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the sense of fairness is whatever the rule is, the rule is.
Yes.
And the rule may change, but.
Yeah, I got that.
Now, your offer to come back and give us a report, that's not in your conditions, though.
It is.
Let me make, where is this?
Oh, yes, it is, number 6. I see it. Okay. Joe, does that satisfy you that that's enough of an annual report from them?
Yeah, it is. I mean, at the end of the year, when you're getting ready to go for your business license again, let's just have a look at, and make sure, that you're not a public nuisance. Okay, that's bottom line. And we're just looking to make sure that we're doing what we have to do.
If we
to
get any
make-
reports or citations, you'll be hearing from us.
Okay, good.
Just on that second paragraph on 5, if you could just firm up that language instead of, recommendation, I would say these three things will be done, shall be done.
Okay.
Roof, front door, front glass.
Just say the applicant shall incorporate the 3 recommendations made by Sound and Light.
Shall install.
Okay.
Yeah, I will.
Gotcha. Okay.
Shall execute the recommendations as stated in the, well, you know, however you want to put it. I just want to make sure that language is.
He's a lawyer.
I know, see, that was slippery language you had in there. Shall incorporate recommendations, you know, I don't know what that means. Accomplish objectives. If you don't meet the objective, is there a penalty? I don't think, no. Is there a demand that you have to accomplish the objective? I don't know.
All right, I'm going to make a motion.
Go ahead.
Tom, help me here, because there'll be conditions on this. I'm going to move, under old business, that we approve SLUP 14-01 with the following conditions, that conditions approved of in this conversation, Hakeem, on your proposed conditions for special land use permit number 14-01 are incorporated, and that 30 days prior to the end of the year, you report, come to council meeting and report on status of how successful you've been with noise abatement, and we are going to refer that also to any complaints that come in, and if complaints come in, how well you've addressed them. So the SLUP will be based, renewal will be predicated upon satisfactory levels of performance.
It's acceptable, yes.
All right, is that your motion?
That's my motion.
Did you want to incorporate the changes that, yeah?
I did.
Yeah, you could, well, the changes that we had on
The changes we agreed to.
the second page. Yeah, these conditions, the conditions from the sound engineer.
Can I do it over again? Well, the conditions include,
Marie, that paper is scraped there. Those microphones are very sensitive,
Yeah,
by
very
the way.
sensitive.
We've been hearing all night long, all those little
we know what
covers.
you're doing out there tonight, believe me. All right, on the areas of concern and solutions includes roof, front door, and front glass, and
Shall be installed.
shall be installed and shall be completed, right?
Yes.
All right.
And
All right.
that's acceptable?
Acceptable, yes.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor of adopting the motion as stated by Councilman Gebbia, signify so by saying aye.
Excuse me,
Oh,
is that with last call at 2:30 and closing at 3, or is that with condition number 12 as written?
It's condition 12 is written and his option to close at 2:30.
all in favor of adopting the motion as stated by Councilman Gebbia, signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the motion is carried.
Thank you very much.
We
Thank you,
look-
Hakeem.
We look for good things from you all.
Especially a good meal when we come by. I'm dying to try that food. Good luck to you. We'll have to get a hold of Mr. T now and have a conversation with him.
All right. Next item,
Okay, the next item is new business, and if you would please amend the agenda so we can have the consideration of the transfer of host funds.
Do we need a motion to amend the agenda?
Yes.
Okay.
So, is there, I'll make a motion that we amend the agenda for a new business item, the consideration of the transfer of host funds, as stated by city manager.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right.
So now you need a motion to amend.
Marie, why don't you go ahead and explain what it is you're
Yes,
asking?
okay. What I'm asking, and thank you for making that amendment to the agenda, I'm requesting that $195 be transferred out of the host fund.
1,000.
$195,000, thank you.
Are you getting sick also?
For purposes of completing and finishing the 2013 paving sidewalks and parks projects.
Go ahead.
I move that we
I'm sorry?
approve the motion as stated by our city manager.
I second.
Pass?
Any discussion?
Huh?
All in favor of adopting the motion as stated, signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Next.
Okay, next, An ordinance 2014-05-03, consideration and approval to amend Chapter 7, Buildings and Building Regulations of the Code of the City of Brookhaven, Article 2, Division 1, Section 7-16, renaming Technical Board of Appeals to the Construction Board of Appeals.
I so move that we accept ordinance 2014-05-03 as stated.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor of adopting the ordinance signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right.
Okay, Resolution 2014-05-01 to include various persons in the definition of term employee under OCGA 34-9-1, parentheses 2, for the purpose of workers' compensation.
Is there a motion?
I move that we adopt Resolution 2014-05-01.
Is there a second?
Seconded?
Any discussion? All in favor of adopting the resolution signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right.
Next item, ordinance 2014-05-01. Is that the same number?
The four.
Ordinance. This is an ordinance. Consideration of approval of Chapter 4, amending Section 4-55, suspension or revocation, and Section 4-57, hearings.
I so move that we accept ordinance 2014-05-01 as stated.
Second it?
All right.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
We were going to propose 2 amendments to that language,
Okay, well, we got to hear the amendments.
if that's all right.
Go ahead.
If I could I go ahead and start? If you,
It's been seconded. Does it need to be voted down and then brought back up?
or else have it voted down.
Vote it down. All in favor of adopting the ordinance the motion signifies so by saying aye. Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
All
All
right.
right, ordinance has gone down in flames.
All right, the ordinance 2014-05-01, consideration of approval of Section 4-57 hearings, and consideration of approval of Section 4-55 suspension or revocation with the following amendments to Section 4-55 as presented, that the word repeated in Section 12 of subsection A be deleted where presented in the first line thereof, and the words disturbing the peace be added after the words excessive noise be added to subsection F of Section 12 of Section A.
Then I so move that we accept ordinance 2014-05-01 with amendments as stated by our attorney.
Okay. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Any discussion? All in favor of adopting the ordinance as stated signify so by saying aye.
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 All opposed? All right.
Okay, ordinance, this is to ask for consideration of the initiation of a text amendment concurrent variances.
Okay. Can you explain that?
This will allow the staff to complete the text amendment to allow for concurrent variances to be heard before the Planning Commission in a public hearing, because this does amend the zoning ordinance, part of the Zoning Procedures Act, and then we'll come back to the City Council. So where we have a rezoning application that comes in, and by the mere act of approving the rezoning creates the need for a variance, we'd like the mayor and council to be able to hear those together and not put the ZBA in a position where they are being forced to consider a case for variance on property that was rezoned, and by the mayor and council, and create a need for a variance.
Thank you. All right. Is there a motion?
I move that we accept ordinance ID number 13.
No, what was the number?
There's no ordinance. This is to move to initiate, to direct staff to initiate the language and get that in front of the Planning
It's
Commission.
just called ordinance on the,
Correct. It will be an ordinance, but it's consideration of initiation of a text amendment.
okay, so that's the motion, Joe. Just say consideration.
Consideration for
Initiation of a text amendment.
initiation of the text amendment. Yes, thank you.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of adopting this item signify so by saying aye.
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 All opposed? All right, and we've deferred these last two, right?
Yes, so we're now at other business.
Any other business?
None.
Oh.
Well, actually, we had moved the issue from our consent agenda on approval of city manager's contract.
We deferred it.
Oh, we deferred.
Yeah, you were out, you were doing the taxi service.
Sorry.
All right, other business? All right, public comment, second public comment section. Anybody have a public comment?
Mr. John Margolis.
All right.
I'd like to defer to Mr. Ron Henney to speak first. He's most affected by the project at the Bible Chapel, 1475 Road.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Ron Henney.
I'm Ron Henney, 2238 Matthew Street. We're the owners of a north side property adjacent to 1475 North Druid Hills development. My concerns are the city of Brookhaven has a flawed procedure in handling the improvement of developments, especially 1475 North Druid Hills development. In the September 2013 council hearing for approval of the development, I distinctly heard verbal promises from the council and mayor that there would be fairness in regard to the residents on the north side and south side of the development. What was good for the south side was going to be good for the north side. This did not happen. If you don't remember, I suggest you listen to the tape of the meeting. In a letter dated October 2nd, 2013, which I just read, sent from Susan Cannon to Doug Dillard, attorney for the development, it outlined the conditions for approval. Two of those conditions related to the south side of the property, specifically, one, removal of 2 units facing the south side, and 2, no exterior balconies on 4 of the units facing the south side. No such conditions were given for the north side. Where is the fairness? As a matter of fact, in the revised plans recently submitted for approval and approved, 2 more units were added to the north side. Thus, I have 8 units facing me, 30 feet away, instead of the 6 original, and the south side has 4 units instead of the original 6. Also, I now have extended balconies, either enclosed porches or terraces facing me, when in the original plan, there was no roof, there was to be rooftop terraces. The impact of more noise and more loss of privacy is enormous. Yet, nowhere in the procedure for the revised plans does a homeowner like me have sway with the builder before the approval. In the original proposal by the builder, you asked the builder to meet with those impacted by the development prior to the approval of the council. However, in the revised plan, which will increase the negative impact on me, no such procedure is in place. As a matter of fact, I talked to the builder, and he agreed that the negative impact would be greater, but that's the way it's going to be. Also, I will now have my water line and drainage pipes torn up in order for the development to attach to the sewer lines on Matthew Street. Had I known that the plans would be revised, I would have sought a different agreement with the builder. Besides, I was told by council at that meeting in 2013, individual agreements were not part of the council's conditions. Yet, the south side concerns were placed in the conditions by council and sent to the builder and again approved by the city of Brookhaven. As a resident of the city of Brookhaven, I'm deeply disappointed. I made my concerns known to my council representative and to those who were reviewing the revised plans. Yet my concerns were ignored, and I have nowhere else to go with my frustration other than to call your attention to those broken promises and flawed procedures. Thank you for your time.
Go ahead.
Ready?
Yes,
This is Mr. John Margolis.
My name is John Margolis. I live 4 houses down from Mr. Henney. I'm not as impacted with him, but my career with the federal government and in my private life, I strive for fairness and justice.
Can you start his clock over?
I want to say that even though many of us on Matthew Street in Brookhaven Heights are not happy with the revised site plan that the city approved last month for the townhome development at 1475 North Druid Hills Road, I do feel that the zoning board, city council, and staff have all acted with integrity. However, I do believe that there are flaws in the approval process that the developer was able to exploit to make changes that at least give the appearance of a bait and switch, and which did not adhere to verbal commitments that the developer made to the Brookhaven City Council on September 24th, 2013. From the moment that this developer became involved with this project almost a year ago, the neighbors were told about and shown beautiful pictures of townhomes that would have rooftop terraces and no large balconies. It was based on these designs that Ron and Norma Henney made an agreement with the developer and which required them to be proponents of the project at the 9/24/13 City Council meeting. However, by the time the developer submitted its revised site plan over 5 months later, there no longer were rooftop terraces, but instead large balconies. I have tried unsuccessfully to find out exactly when and why the developer made these major changes, and despite them, the staff apparently was still able to approve the revised site plan because rooftop terraces and balcony size were not part of the 22 written conditions that the city required the developer to meet. I believe it is a major flaw in the zoning approval process in Brookhaven that a developer can make major changes to a project without having to come back to the city council to explain these changes and to give our residents the opportunity to comment on them. It is also a major flaw if a plan can still be approved despite a developer not meeting verbal commitments made to the city council. At the September 24th, 13 meeting, Mr. Doug Dillard, the attorney for the developer, agreed to the request from the city council, I believe it was you, Mr. Mayor, and you, Ms. Williams, to more equitably share the location of the 3 townhomes that were being eliminated. Apparently, staff believes that the developer met this commitment by removing 1 townhome overlooking North Druid Hills Road, even though the city council made its request in response to the comments from residents of Matthew Street, such as myself, that it would be unfair if the developer removed 2 townhomes next to the south side of the project, but none next to the north side overlooking Matthew Street. As all of you may not know, in the approved final site plan, the south side went from having 1 6-unit building to 1 4-unit building, while the north side went from 1 6-unit building to 2 4-unit buildings that overlook our street and directly next to the house of Mr. and Mrs. Henney. The other verbal commitment that I believe the developer skirted is in relation to the balconies. At the 9/24/13 City Council meeting, the developer submitted a new plan that for the first time, and I believe Ms. Cannon was upset about this at the late date, that for the first time had small 5-foot deep balconies on all of the townhomes, except the ones overlooking the south side, which had threatened a lawsuit and therefore made their own agreements with Mr. Dillard. The south side has 4 enclosed living areas from the reduction. We've got 8 large balconies. The city council asked the developer if they could also remove balconies from the rest of the townhomes, as you recall. And Mr. Dillard waxed philosophically about he has a small little balcony in his Buckhead home where he goes out for fresh air, as he'd like the residents of the new development to do, and they could barely fit a table and 2 chairs. Well, as you know, as I stated earlier, in the approved revised state plan, all of the townhouse homes, except those on the south side of the project, now have large balconies. It gives the appearance of a bait and switch by the developer. I'm not saying they did it, but I'd like to know when and why the rooftop terraces were removed and large balconies were put onto it. They owe that to you, and they owe that to us to figure out why that change was made. We all have beautiful single-family homes. If there was a project approved by you all, which had no balconies and rooftop terrace, and all of a sudden, boom, there was no rooftop terrace and a huge balcony, we all would be up in arms about that. But why is it okay for when there's a development of townhomes next to a residential area? I hope it's not too late for the city council to rectify these actions by the developer. But if so, I'd still ask you to amend the zoning approval process so that any major change to a project will require a new public hearing. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today. With your permission, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to give you a copy of my comments and also the supporting documents.
Yes, please.
And also give it to the city manager. Mr. Madison, Ms. Cannon already have all these documents.
All right.
I've also shared it with the local media.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Excuse me, ma'am. Thank you.
Susan, did you have any comment about any of this?
Well, Mayor and Council, obviously I'm going from memory here, but I have spoken with Mr. Hennessy and Mr. Margolis, and the site plan that was presented that the council approved with conditions and the plan that we have in our office does meet the conditions of zoning. If someone makes a comment in a hearing and it's not listed as a condition and adopted by the council, then we don't have a condition to implement. So, and I believe that's what the gentleman was referring to, in that it meets all of the identified conditions. I think his concern was comments that were made that perhaps were not part of the record. But, and I'm going from memory. I do recall removal of 2 units on the south side. I do think the pond has been relocated on the property as well. I do recall comments about the balconies. But based on what we have in our office and based on the conditions and the approval that took place, it does meet the spirit of the plan.
It might meet the letter of the law and the
Correct.
plan. But I do not believe it meets the intent and will of the council that was discussed. My recollection of it was that it was a reduction in number of units, 2 overall. I did not, I don't recall it being specific to any side.
It was reduction on the south side.
I do remember making a comment about it being on the south side as opposed to, I mean, I remember saying that to Doug Dillard.
You know, certainly we did discuss the balconies and the intent of the balconies as described on the conditions of the site plan we were seeing were small balconies, a terrace that might hold a plant at best. The pictures originally shown to us had rooftop balconies or rooftop terraces rather than balconies. You know, I'm not sure what we can do about this current situation that we have. I certainly would love to hear options to evaluate this plan that we've approved.
What I can share with you is that we have listened to the tape 2 or 3 additional times. We've gone over the conditions 2 or 3 additional times. We'll be more than happy to share with you every piece of information we can, to have you take a look at the submitted plan, the proposed plan, and the incorporation of the revision, all the conditions, and certainly supply the tape again and sit down and go over that with you, because at this point, that's really all we can do.
Right. Let me ask you
I
this.
understand what they're saying.
Well,
I want to make a point to Mr. Margolis and Mr. Henny's comments that in the procedure that we have, if we have a site plan that shows one thing in the beginning and then that's not made a condition and they change it up afterwards, how do we have a policy where, and I don't know if it was a bait and switch either, but it sort of feels a little bit like it. How do we have a policy where if you have submit a site plan with the one picture and then the final plan doesn't have what's in that picture? And I mean, the balcony was a pretty important, or covered terrace was a pretty important discussion point, I remember.
Well, the checkpoint is that if it is in accordance with the plan. But as I recall, in that particular process, like the gentleman was saying, and both men were saying, in the course of that meeting, 2 of the units were removed. And then the comments were, or the conditions were, that there would be a revised plan. So the way everyone is fully aware of the total outcome is if it is definitely based on that particular plan.
So you're saying we would have had to make that a specific condition that it.
Well, we did make it a specific condition that it would come back to staff for review as the revised site plan. I think in the future, I would like to, for us to consider ways that we don't have situations like this where I think that the intent of the council was somewhat missed in this, in the approval of the revised site plan.
Where there are a number of checkpoints that you can have in place. For example, that you shouldn't be allowed, no one should be allowed to submit a revised site plan during the night of a meeting.
Right.
Because everyone doesn't have an opportunity to review it.
Right.
The staff
Right.
doesn't have an opportunity to
Right.
review it. The public doesn't see it. You don't have an opportunity to review it, so we can't react to that.
Let's make that a policy.
Or if a site plan is submitted, any changes need to be noted, so it's not something that's obscure and could just slip through.
If they change from brick to stucco, that needs to be noted. I mean,
So was there a public hearing after the time it was agreed that they would reduce the number of units, and then when the
No,
so
sir.
there was no opportunity for the residents to come back and say, hey, this is not the
No.
this is not the opportunity.
No,
Okay.
there wasn't.
So there's something that's fallen through the crack. That's pretty obvious.
Well,
so wait,
you-
let me just ask.
Yeah.
What options are there now?
Well, I mean, the options are, as I indicated before, we can share with you the list of conditions that were approved. We can share with you the original plan and the revised plan. We can share with you the tape of the meeting, and you can look at that to determine whether you feel like we, as a staff, reviewed a plan and approved a plan that we shouldn't have approved. But we feel that it meets the requirement, but I think at this point, that's the option.
Okay, well, it meets the requirement. Either situation would have met the requirement, right? Whether it be a balcony or whether it be a rooftop terrace. Either one of those would have met the requirement.
have they started building yet?
No.
Okay, that's,
Where is, have they got their permit?
They have submitted for review of their permit.
Marie, do you have comments, please?
Well, the good news is, we've just heard that no construction has started.
Right.
So I would, first of all, recommend, and we're sort of in a delicate balance right now because of the conditions are that specific that do not include your intent. And I would advise you, especially, it always worries me when there's a lot of negotiation going on from the podium.
Right.
Because critical elements that the public rely on sometimes aren't captured in the motion. The meetings are long,
Right.
the conversations are long, people are coming back and forth. My practice to you that I would suggest is that when the applicant is at the podium and there's been a long discussion and you all feel like you've gotten some agreement from them that are not in writing, that part of your motion, it recites or directs the conditions that have been stated, and then you end it with, and all agreements that have been made in this conversation and reflected in the minutes.
can we ask that, as a reminder to both of you, that you do that for us when we
Yes.
get into those situations
Yes,
in
we
the future?
can do that. Now, how do we
For
solve
the,
this?
for that slip we just did, all agreements that have been made are in the minutes of this meeting. All right, just want to
Right.
put that on the record.
Right, well,
And that's part of the reason that I clarified the hours of operation.
right.
In the slide.
Because there was a
Thank
conflict
you.
Right.
there. All right, now, here's the options to get back to what Councilman Madison was asking for. The good news is, we don't have any construction that they're in for permit and review.
Right.
I think we do have an opportunity, absent having that level of specificity in the conditions, to state and to require the applicant to come in and say, this is not in the spirit of what the council understood and expected.
Right.
I think the staff has the right, and the city attorney can advise otherwise, but if there is a concern on the part of the staff, again, absent of the conditions, that something is missing of what the council is expecting, what the neighborhood believed that they were in agreement with, then the option can be meet the spirit of the intent, or you're coming to the council and you're going to appear at the podium and you're going to address the council.
Yeah,
I
I'm-
think that's where we are.
You know, one
And
of-
I think from this day forward, when there's conversations, again, negotiating the podium should be a policy of no.
Okay.
We don't do that.
One of the things I think that's kind of,
Just one second.
yeah, just one second. One of the things that I think is important that I feel, I feel bad about is that the Hennies were actually one of the most cooperative people on the entire development and the negotiation. And for them to get the short end of the stick, in particular in light of trying to address their needs and concerns from the development in the negotiations between the developer and the Matthews Street residents is disappointing. So I certainly hope that we can find that find that common ground and
So,
address these
We'll
issues.
get on that
Something
first
else
thing tomorrow.
that I'm seeing coming out of
So
this.
have
is-
Dillard come back.
Yes.
Yeah.
with the
You know,
next-
We'll contact him, sit down with him, we'll talk with him.
'Cause he's got to do more work in front of the city. Or, you know.
Yeah, he does a lot of business here, so. I mean,
Well, right, but
One last comment. Apparently, I got an email from Mr. Song on May 23rd telling me that
May,
May 23rd,
Mr. Song is,
Mr. Song is deputy to Ms. Cannon.
okay.
well, it wouldn't have been May 23rd.
April 23rd, excuse me, I gave you my supporting documents, telling me that it had been approved because it met the conditions of the 22 conditions. And obviously, we know now there should have been 24, 25 conditions. In my emails to Ms. Cannon, Mr. Song, and Mr. Madison, in early March, after the new submittal by Mr. Dillard on February 27th, so we have over a month and a half before the approval, I suggested a compromise, if you recall. I said, if the city council does not legally or philosophically want to require a developer to put back a third-story rooftop terrace, I understand that you don't want to dictate to someone, you must have a rooftop terrace. I understand that, okay? I understand that. But what I put in those documents to you all was here was a compromise. Now, again, on the south side, they threatened a lawsuit. They worked with the developer all those months. All the units were turned perpendicular. There was one unit left. They went down from 6 to 4, and those 4 units have enclosed living areas. That Mr. Song was going to find out from Mr. Dillard, what exactly did that mean? The response I got from Mr. Song didn't elaborate on all these other points that I had made. But one of the compromises I suggested was 4. If you can't take away some of the 8 units that are overlooking Matthew Street, okay, I wish you could, but if you can't, make 4 of the units that are right next to their house, make them enclosed living areas like the 4 on the other side. So nobody will be standing outside barbecuing and making all kind of noise. That was my suggestion for a compromise. If the developer feels that enclosed living areas are an option for their community, now, I believe it's an option because the developer working with Villa de Vista, the gated community in Lenox Park, that has 7 units of over $1 million homes, that had threatened a lawsuit from Get One, and even after the September 24th hearing, you recall, Mr. Andy Cow stood up here and said, I'm still going to sue. Well, he didn't. Maybe he didn't sue. Okay. So he got reduced from 6 to 4, and now the 4 have enclosed living areas. Okay? Maybe you can't revisit that either. Our neighborhood decided we didn't want to make a lawsuit. We didn't have 7 people right next to it. We just have our street, that the rest of Brookhaven Heights is not impacted the way we are. So one compromise that we can work out, if it's okay with the Henny, if we cannot get the 8 units reduced, which I think we should, given your comments about that, that at least make the 4 that are right next to the side of their house, that would have led to a different agreement if they knew there'd be no rooftop terraces and big balconies, make those enclosed living areas, which I believe, pending knowing what they are. Did Mr. Song tell you what those are?
I have some examples.
Okay, then I assume that's less noise than the huge, large balconies. So that's one suggestion I have, if at this late date, you don't want to require them to turn one of the buildings perpendicular. Anyway, that's all I have to say. I appreciate your any help you in this matter.
Marie, do you have a comment?
I was just going to say, we have to be careful not to negotiate from the podium.
Right.
Because now you've gotten a compromise absent having the applicant present to.
We didn't comment
No,
on it.
it's just a comment.
I know that, I know, but when I'm just making that statement to illustrate this. First and foremost, when there is conversation going back and forth, we need to be able to capture that in the motion, and we need to staff to be sure that when plans come in, it meets the spirit of that. You know, fortunately, I think we have an opportunity to bring the parties back in right now and to describe what the expectation is of the mayor and council from that very long meeting back in September of last year. If the applicant is unwilling to concede to that, then I think they win a trip back to the podium. And I think that's how it needs to be handled, so that that is openly discussed. The property owners adjacent to the development are duly notified, so that they understand that there is an opportunity to make comment and to see if there is a revised plan or whatever the plan might be. But I think that at this point, you know, we need to sit down with them and talk, and hopefully that they will understand what they led you to believe they agreed to. And
Well,
if-
Thank you.
I just want to finish a comment I was trying to make earlier, is I think some of the best policing of all this are the residents. And had there been an opportunity for a public hearing after all the changes, I think anything that was left out there residually probably could have surfaced. I don't know if we can incorporate some type of policy that handles an extra public hearing, especially if a project has gone through a variety of renditions, prior to the last. I'll just throw that out.
We just need to be more vigilant about making sure if it's something that's important, it needs to be incorporated as condition at the time.
Well, this is important. I mean, if this
Yeah.
was my backyard, I'd be upset too. And had we had a public comment time, public hearing on this, this would have surfaced.
Well, no, the changes, a lot of these changes that were proposed all happened after our council meeting. So
Yeah,
the
I know.
revised plan.
5 months later.
Yeah,
But some of the
so-
changes were made unbeknownst. And we
Well,
would have
the
known.
conditions just went
Let
on.
me just intercede, so in the other zoning ordinances, in the situations where there is this type of density or construction, certainly, you can retain site plan approval, but you probably should maintain also the approval as it relates to elevations and the like, and that issue, and if it changes, then they come back to council.
Right.
And that's the way it's done with this type of activity. Now, where we are is that staff is taking that and approving it. You've just really approved something conceptually. You haven't approved the whole project, okay? Whether it's, but other ordinances in this type of situation will require specific site plan approval as well as elevations of each of the buildings.
Gotcha.
All right.
Thank you.
Good comments.
Thank you. All right, so you'll give us an update on.
We'll make
Thank you.
contact tomorrow morning.
All right.
We have more public comment.
Yes, come on, but more
Mr.
public comment.
Lyons.
Or were you sat here all night to come up for this
And,
late
well,
hour?
Thank you,
Aubrey Valines Don't make Rebecca cough anymore.
You don't need to limit him to 3
I
minutes.
hope your mother's feeling better. Aubrey Valines on behalf of the Pink Pony. I just wanted to thank you and commend the mayor, the city council, and the legal team for choosing not to appeal the zoning decision, which allows us to modernize our bathrooms and expand our bathrooms and our locker rooms, but nothing to the entertainment section. And we appreciate that. We think that's a common sense approach, and I just want to come here publicly and thank you. Also want to commend you for the hearings you've had regarding the hours issue. I learned a lot yesterday, or whenever that was that I went, and I learned there's a difference between noise and vibration. I also learned the difference between noise inside and the motor vehicles that drive out and make all the noise that vibrate everything. And of course, dollars falling on stages make no noise at all. But I learned a lot, and I think that you're looking at this in the right way and bringing these experts, these sound engineers you're talking about doing, because, it's really not a simple solution. It's a complex issue. Finally, as you know, June the 2nd, we have arguments in front of the Supreme Court. No one can predict what they're going to rule, except they will not rule on that day, and it will come down somewhere afterwards. We will continue to work with you to find a solution to the problem that is beneficial to business and beneficial to the residents of Brookhaven, who overwhelmingly support our presence there. We are going to be starting some mail-outs that are going to be pro-Pink Pony in some of the districts. They're not going to say anything negative about any of the council people or anyone else. They're just going to talk about the pony and say, if you support us, contact your council person. But again, we want to continue to work with you to resolve this in a way that's beneficial for all parties. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Ronnie Mayor.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council people. We're taking you to doctor right after this, Rebecca. We're going to 911. The word of the night is accountability on a few things. Y'all just wrote a check over to Marie for new sidewalks. Just said, okay. Have any of y'all drove out to the Windsor Parkway and see the shoddy job of sidewalk that's out there? Has any of y'all really looked at it?
Yeah.
You know what you're looking at? You really know what you're looking at? Have you seen it? There's one section there that you're gonna have to, I mean, if you're gonna be, if this is gonna be Brookhaven, and we're gonna be top shelf, and we're not looking after the cheapest price, we're doing it right. We're not gonna do it the DeKalb County way, that when the roots of that big stump come back up in less than a year and crack that sidewalk, and then you have to dig it up, and you resaw it, and then the concrete looks different from the other, then you're going just back to the same DeKalb County crap we've had before. Somebody's got to be accountable for this, okay? There's a stump there. The stump should have been sawed, ground, and cut out completely before you poured that one section there. All right, and easily y'all just hand out more money for more sidewalks. Y'all need to slow down a little bit. Y'all are going way too quick. You're doing schools and this, and you hadn't even got the parks done, sidewalks done. Slow down a little bit. Rome was not created in a day. This thing with Pink Pony, I saw the attorney from up in Knoxville, wherever he's from, sneak out the back door here. I know my taxpayer dollars are paying for him to be here. Fly here, be here, whatever. Y'all put the Pink Pony on the agenda for a vote. I'm tired of screwing around with it, guys. You spending my money with this attorney and back and forth and back and forth. Be truthful to whoever you're responsible for in your neighborhood. I read in the newspaper that you're going to handle Ashford Park. My honorable mayor, they said when you were looking for run for mayor, you had to Google yourself out of Ashford Park. Come on, I mean, I can help you with Ashford Park if you'll come help me. The thing with the library and the park over there, if y'all get asked for some help, a few of us know a lot of people at DeKalb County, and when y'all are trying to acquire that property there, some of us know a little more about Brookhaven than even y'all know, but you got to come ask for it. You know, if you don't ask for it, you're not going to get it. I appreciate the great job y'all doing, but slow down a little bit. You know, Rome was not created in a day. You'll get it all done right, but if you haven't seen that sidewalk, go out and take a look at it. And the Brookhaven bolts this Saturday. There's no fresh asphalt out yet, and it's supposed to rain Thursday. I don't know why we're waiting to the last minute to fix everything, but I hope it gets done, makes us look good, because if it don't, it's going to make us look bad. Thank you.
Thank you. Just remind everybody, we need your help when it comes to the DeKalb County Parks purchase. So I'll ask again for everybody's help. Ronnie's everybody's. Richard, on that sidewalk, I have looked at that sidewalk, and I have seen that stump. Was that not supposed to be ground, or what?
It was, and we're working with the contractor. We have not accepted, I said it's complete, the construction is complete, but we have not accepted it yet, and that's one of the things we're working with the contractor on fixing.
Okay, so it's been built, but it hadn't been accepted.
Yeah.
I know we do that with other things as
Yeah,
well.
yes.
And the paving for Brookhaven Bolt?
They were out there working today, and I don't know, I know they were working all day today, they're working all day tomorrow, they're working as much as they can on Thursday, and they're going to work until it gets done this week.
All right. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, just one extra comment about the Brookhaven Bolt. The tourism office contributed $5,000 to that race as a major contributor.
That's fantastic.
Our tourism office?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you. Next.
Dr. Doris Beardsley has asked for her comments be read into the record.
Okay.
And she's asked, what involvement is the city of Brookhaven doing to support the current charter school located in Brookhaven for 5th to 8th graders, the Path Academy Charter School?
Right. Thank you. Any more? Okay. All right. Let me see, where are we now? Mayor's comments. It's a long meeting. Thank you all for staying, and thank you all for all staff for getting this place ready. Executive session. We don't need an executive session, I don't think. Okay. Is there a motion for adjournment?
I move we adjourn and let Rebecca go home.
Seconded.
All in favor of adjournment, signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right.
This thing